from a third party that they would fund the process of quality assurance of these textbooks. So by the time they came to the game, it was already beyond 31st of March. But the books were eventually digitized in April, or the quality assurance was done in April. So this is one area where we have underperformed, and I will take you to the next program. In program 3, we achieved all our targets. This is the program that deals with teachers and teacher development indicators. I will take you then to slide 55, which is in program 4. In program 4, we had an indicator on the number of district director forums held. 3 were planned for the year. Because of the election year, when the minister came in, one meeting was just there when she was trying to settle in. So we were never able to catch up with holding the 3rd meeting of the minister with district directors. So now the program for this year is fully done. We don't have a problem of achieving this indicator. It was just because of that year that had a lot of administrative challenges and getting used to the department. The last indicator that we did not achieve in program 5 has to do with a number of provincial education departments with approved business plans for the HIV and AIDS conditional grant. I think it was mentioned earlier by the DG as we were reporting some of the issues under financial management. One province lost the person who coordinates this program, and because of that there were delays. And when we reported during the quarterly reports, it was very clear that we even tried as DBE to appeal to the MEC of the province to try and get somebody to assist so that this thing can be achieved on time. Unfortunately, these things are done on timelines. Once that time passes, then you remain behind. So that's why we had 8 out of 9 provinces with approved plans by the time we got to the end of the financial year. Overall, under program performance information in terms of the audit, we improved because we did not have any material findings on performance. I will hand over to the CFO to summarize the finance report.
Thanks, Ms. Rosemary. Good afternoon, Minister, DM, and DG, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, as well as members. All these things that are on here have been dealt with. The AG has indicated, the Minister has also indicated, we got five unqualified audits in a row. The audit action plan, these are issues that the AG has dealt with. So I want, there's actually not much. Minister has also mentioned on slide 70 there that we have spent 99.7% of the budget. The bulk of the underspending is under the infrastructure.
Let's increase the voice a little bit.
Or the bulk, I'm saying, sorry, Chairperson and members. I'm saying even on slide 70, the Minister has spoken to that, to say we've spent 99.7% of the budget, and the bulk of the underspending is basically on infrastructure. So there's not much, basically, Chairperson, that I would want to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, DG. Yes.
My apologies, I thought my voice was hard enough. And DG and the managers as well, and those who keep us honest here at the back, the AG as well. My name is DP van der Nest. I'm the chairperson of the Audit Committee of the department, independent chair. Chairperson, I'll be guided because a lot of what we have in the presentation has been dealt with by the AG already. So I don't want to repeat some of this. So I will really be brief in terms of a few of the areas. And I think you've also had the presentation for some time to engage with. You would see this would have been a very long presentation. We oversee, as an audit committee, we oversee the work of internal audit. We oversee risk management, financial reporting, and we also receive the information and the reports from the Auditor General. Our key assurance providers for the audit committee is internal audit. I've got the CAE here with me, and then of course the Auditor General, with whom we work very closely. Internal audit this year conducted 19 audits in the department and 11 additional management requests as well, especially on these implementing agents where we have the problems, Chair. So we have directed internal audit, NECT, one of our problem children, and the VSA as well, to review those supply chain non-compliance issues that we've had. And there was clear recommendations made. Internal audit also followed up on the AG findings to see how many of them have been resolved and reported to us those that have not been resolved. Then, in terms of consequence management, something that has been discussed in detail, the Audit Committee also had a special meeting. And we do that at a regular basis just on consequence management. To get the detailed report, and I'm not going to dwell on that, it was requested, I think, by Honourable Kize, and the DG indicated they'll get the detailed list of the progress with regard to that. But we do follow this up. There were small cases, not small cases. For example, there were 2 employees accused of corruption in the department. Both of them went for disciplinary. The one was found guilty, was dismissed, criminal charges laid. The other one resigned before we could complete the disciplinary. But we still put the criminal charges, and there's a lovely function on Persol where you can put that the person has resigned before the completion of a disciplinary. So if we've got these pop-ups that then leave National and go to Free State or somewhere, they can see on the system this person was charged. So those are the things that we also just follow up in terms of consequence management as well. Internal audit assists us with the performance information and overview of the performance information every quarter to make sure that the system of control over the generation, the collation and the reporting of the performance information is operating as intended. I'm not going to go through all of that. It will take a lot of time. There were also some audits on the math, science and technology grants, school visits in some of the provinces, and then also the NSNP in some of the provinces to give the department an idea of where there are areas of concern in those specific programs. We have a list of audit committee meetings. I'm not going to go through all of them. We had quite a few meetings, and each one of them focuses on certain specific areas, approving the internal audit plans, reviewing the annual report, the financial statements. We then meet with the Auditor General and a number of other meetings, including then special meetings to look at consequence management and the oversight over these implementing agents and the problems that we've experienced with them. There's a list of them. In terms of the control environment, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, I think we're happy as a committee, the stability that we have in leadership in the branches and of course leadership from the top. We have seen the improvement in risk management activities in the department. One of the audit committee members, an independent audit committee member, Mr. Saki Simelane, is also chairing the risk committee to make sure that we've got the synergy between risk and the audit committee as well. because the risk informs internal audit, as you are well aware. Quality assurance, some challenges. Quality assurance has improved in some branches. We still have the issues in terms of capacity in our CD and supply chain management. Our CD, we are aware it is phasing out, so we have to manage that process as well. There are some of the prior year audit findings that have not been addressed fully, and then for our CD and finance to strengthen the quality assurance process and how they work together. Irregular, fruitless and wasteful, Honourable Chair, it's been discussed in detail. I don't think I need to go through that as well. All that we can say is the majority of the previous cases were investigated. 100% of 2023 and 22-3 has been investigated, and then also 23-24, about 210 million was completed as well. So, but the complete list will be sent to the members as per the request earlier. External audit, you've heard as the committee that we've been unqualified now for the last few years. There were a few findings that we still need to sort out, specifically centered around infrastructure as well. So it sometimes distracts, Honourable Chair. The department is big and it's got so many programs and things that it does, but we spend so much time on focusing on this that is resulting from the infrastructure in terms of irregular, fruitless and wasteful and all of that. But if you look at that, that's just one program in a big department. So one must always see the context as well of this. Not that I'm saying it's huge amounts, but there's other work that the department is doing as well. I think one of the key things, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members, you've received the annual report today, and what was positive for us as an audit committee is that the AG has reviewed this. Remember, we've improved the APP, it's including all the MTSF targets now, and even with including all of that, the AG gave us an unqualified report on that. So it means that you as committee can trust what the Minister and the DG and the staff have presented in terms of performance information. Yeah, these are the, let me see, the material irregularities. We spent a lot of time and focus on that, and we're happy that they've been resolved to the satisfaction of the AG. Am I going too quick? Even in terms of what was with the CD program, the DG is meeting weekly with infrastructure and finance, and there's weekly meetings with the IAs as well to strengthen reporting that we do, and then there's also the consequence management with them. Chair, this is all on consequence management. I will be repeating what has been said previously as well. There's a lot on let me just see. This is the audit outcomes on the performance in the annual report. You would see 2022-23, there's been program 4 was qualified, 2023-24, program 2 and 4 was qualified, but in 2024-25, there were no findings on program 2, 3 and 4 in the performance information and the report that you've just received. So I think that was a positive development as well after the AG has completed the audit. Let me see. All right. The audit committee, we will continue, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members. There's a lot that we are monitoring. We've got a number of meetings to ensure that we improve the control environment further, and we're looking at all the outstanding matters and even consequence management assist to assist us to get to a, we don't call it a clean audit anymore, it's unqualified without findings. Yes. Am I correct, AG? It's, yes, yes, there were findings, as was discussed. Apologies. Honourable Chair, I think let me stop there, and that you can note the report from the Audit Committee as well.
Thank Thank you very much, Chair of Internal Audit. So, when you present to the committee, leave the members because they will distract you. If you look at the members, they will distract you. At any point when you say something and they don't agree with it, they'll be like, and then you'll be distracted. So, just present to us because this is a presentation we have.
Yes.
So you can't change it as we make reactions.
Point of order, Chair.
Okay.
Please, this thing of I've got trauma from being beaten when it was my sister who was wrong. So it's not members. Please, let's be specific. It's Honorable Mkhize.
But I trusted you, man.
Let's please be specific. We've got trauma, some of us, from such behavior. It's Honorable Mkhize.
No, I agree.
Thank you,
The order is sustained. To Kabazela namhlanje, as Honorable Mgadi has said, has been a very serious problem. So yes, the order is sustained. Honorable Mkhize, let's not intimidate the presenters. We will have time to ask questions. Yeah, when we disagree with them, we'll tell them when our time comes that we disagree. Yeah. So thank you very much, Chairperson. And because you walked in late after break, this is an approach we had agreed on. We agreed on this approach not because we were trying to be fast and just rush through. It's because we've had this presentation for 4 weeks already. 4 weeks. So because we had to postpone 2 meetings. So we understand that we went through it over and over and over in preparation of each and every meeting that we couldn't have. So we know that members are overly prepared. They are over-prepared for this presentation. So we want to give you more time than the department so that you engage with the presentations. DPE, the last presentation, which is NSC State of Readiness, Exam Readiness, right?
Yes, Chair. As we take the state of readiness, the learner and system readiness, internal audit presentation was led by Professor van der Nest.
Oh.
Professor van der Nest, DP van der Nest, is an external member. When you engage with us, please remember that he's not a staff member of the department. He's one of the external members of the audit committee. So the
Maradiji, we know. Do you think we did not hear that?
I know that they are new members.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Prof, when he started, he was very clear. He made it clear that I'm an independent chairperson, audit committee chairperson.
Correct.
He was very clear so that we don't paint him with the same brush with all of you.
Indeed.
He wanted to make it clear that no, I'm not part. I'm just doing this part myself.
I also have trauma from previous experiences.
Okay. So today we're dealing with you call it what? Post-traumatic, what? Yeah, disorders. We're dealing with that today.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw something to the contrary in the past. I just thought I must preempt. Chair, the state of readiness is going to be done by Dr. Mthembu, Mrs. Okubanjo, and Dr. Malapile. I've said to them they must cut to the punchline. If they fail to do so, they'll see me approaching the area of the presentation taking over. That's the agreement for us today. Dr. Mthembu?
Sorry, DG. I do like to give a quick overview on the presentations, Chair, if you will excuse me. Thank you once again for the opportunity to present. The class of 2025 is quite significant because these are learners who started high school back in 2021 at the height of the disruption of COVID-19. In fact, many of these learners would have had an incomplete grade 8 curriculum, but there were a number of things that had been done in the system for us to be able to catch up to be where we are. This year we have over 900,000 candidates who have been registered to write the NSC exams. It's 760,000 full-time and 130,000 part-time candidates. I won't go through the statistics of all our marking centers and all of that, but I do want to say, Chair, that it's not an exaggeration when we say that the logistical undertaking of running the NSC exams is very much comparable to the work that the IEC does in running local and national government elections. It's very involved. You will hear from the team what are all the elements of it that are required. But I just perhaps to say just two things before I give over to the team, that when we look at readiness for NSC members, we look at two categories. We look at the readiness of the system, so the logistics that Dr. Mtembo and team will talk about, the printing, the storage, the security arrangements and all of that. And then we look also at learner readiness. And that we track by looking at how is this class performing in comparison to how the class of 2024 performed per term. And we also look at particularly in terms of, we covered the curriculum. Did we roll out winter, spring, and autumn schools? And so all of those things were done, and our view is that the system is ready. Obviously, the exams started this week. We have had very few incidents. In fact, no material incidents have taken place this week. But the bigger undertakings, I suppose, is when the learners start to write the English papers next week, which is when the entire system is writing. So yeah, with that, Chair, I'll leave it there. I will hand over to the team, but just to assure members that our systems are ready, all 9 of our provinces are ready, but more importantly, our learners are ready. Thanks.
Where's mine?
Thank you, Chair.
To bring our own device, like who brought his own water.
How? You don't trust us now? You don't trust each other now? How?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. We're going to take the House through the readiness of the system and the readiness of learners. And the first part of the presentation will talk to learner preparedness, how we prepared learners, the class of 2025, and the second part will talk about the administrative one, and then the third one will touch on the second chance metric program. The first part then, we want to say that we started in January to prepare the class of 2025 for the metric exams. However, they have been prepared in grade 10 and grade 11 and also in the GET phase for this in their schooling years. We have profiled the class of 2025 qualitatively, mentioning their journey or explaining their journey as they started grade 1 in 2014. And also the fact that as a result of disrupted transition to secondary school, they had limited exposure to full examination, but because of the recovery program of the Department of Basic Education, they were able also to get into a normal examination regime. And it's a class that we hope and we believe is examination fit. And also we also want to say that this is a group which is more comparable to the group of 2024, which performed very well last year. And we also compared this group with the class of 2024 when they were in grade 10, both of them. And you can see that this group is comparable in most cases in these gateway subjects. It performed better than the class of 2024 in these gateway subjects. And in home languages in grade 11, the same thing happened. And then also in grade 10, home languages. So the conclusion here is that the class of 2025 is actually almost at the level or even better than the class of 2024, which performed better. we're also at the beginning of the year able to provide stationery and textbooks on time, and which means that they did not lose out the opportunity of first day, first lesson, first day, first lesson, first period. And then also the diagnostic report, which are the lessons from the previous cohort. The report was distributed to all provinces and schools so that they can get some kind of an idea of the areas which were problematic in the previous year, and then teachers had to deal with that. And also there were DG's engagements, setting the tone, where all 9 provinces were visited by DPE, and electronically, and we made presentations of their performance. We advised on issues of policy. We also advised on a number of other issues which are not related to exams. And then the general teacher support. This teacher support was mainly on the capacitation of teachers, orientation workshop, supporting the new teachers, supporting the schools, teachers from schools which are having matric for the first time this year, as well as underperforming schools. And the learner, we also had radio programs for learners. We supported struggling learners and progress learners, revision material. E-learning tools were also used to accelerate curriculum coverage. And then we supported languages, and those are the things that we did in languages, mainly the 3 papers, paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, which is grammar, literature, and creative writing. More support was provided for that. And in social sciences, which are geography, history, religion studies, and life orientation, these are the things that we did. We looked at the concepts, and we also looked at the support in terms of how they should answer questions. And then in terms of support for natural sciences, which is agric sciences, life sciences, physical sciences, technical sciences, and marine sciences, this is what we did using mainly the Mind the Gap source material. And mathematical sciences, which are 3, technical, pure mathematics, and mathematical literacy, we also provided more support there, especially on those areas in mathematics which are usually problematic, like the Euclidean geometry. And then we also had economic management sciences, accounting, business studies, marine economics, and economics itself. In this also we provided support mainly because accounting needs mathematical ability, and there was more work thrown into this one. And the services subjects, which is consumer studies, hospitality studies, and tourism, more support was provided there, especially in consumer studies where really issues of entrepreneurship were emphasized. And then in terms of art subjects, which are dance studies, design studies, dramatic arts, music and visual arts, we also provided support as stated in the slide. And in terms of technology subjects, computer applications, information technology, as well as engineering, graphics, and design. Our main issue here was the practical tasks, which were also taken into, including what you see in the slides. And in terms of technical subjects, that is civil technology, electrical technology, and mechanical technology, more support was given, and also electronic study material was provided, and the practical assessment tasks, because technical subjects are more practical, were emphasized. And there was also extra tuition in the form of learner camps, class start centers, and walk-in centers, autumn classes, winter classes, and spring classes as part of preparation, and also the Director General's monitoring program, which covered 75 districts, and where the Director General also provided guidance in provinces with his team. And also the second Director General's engagements, we visited provinces just to get an idea of how ready they are for the examinations, and they made those presentations, and we provided guidance on that. There were other areas which were covered by the second engagement outside exams. And we also compared the class of 2025 with the class of 2024 just to see the impact of the preparation in term 1 2024 and term 1 2025. Where it is green, that particular class was stronger in that subject. Where it is red, it was weaker. In this case here, they compare very well, but the class of 2025 seems to be stronger, except in geography, where it performed lower than the class of 2024, term 1, by 0.5%. And then in term 2, the class of 2025 also was stronger, except that in life sciences, term 1 of 2025 was lower, term 2 of 2025 was lower than term 1, from 90.3% to 87.8%. So what we're saying we've covered all the learning areas, all the subjects. We've covered the support of teachers. We've checked the impact through the comparison of the two, and the hope is that there was impact. Then Priscilla will take us through the system's readiness.
Thank you, Dr. Mthembu. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Portfolio Committee, Minister, DM and DG, as well as other colleagues. In terms of the exam readiness, I think we're just going to upfront indicate that we have a system that follows a standards-based approach when we implement, monitor, or support provinces. That approach is described on this slide, which I'm not going to go in detail. But very importantly, to mention that examination is actually a cycle of a lot of activities, although most of the time we focus on the writing phase, which is right in the middle there. But there are a couple of activities that have taken place before and are still going to take place after the writing process. But in our preparation of the system, what we did was we went through regular meetings with provinces in terms of meeting with heads of exams, National Exams Committee, National System Review up till the state of readiness. But I want to indicate that this class of 2025 is the biggest that we have seen so far. We have 766,543 full-time learners that have registered to write. And you can see across all provinces that the numbers have increased. In terms of our part-time candidates, 137,018, but it's slightly lower than previous years. But when you put together the two numbers, part-time and full-timers, we have over 900,000 candidates that have registered to write this examination this year. Now, also, of this candidature, 41,000 of them are progress learners. Looks slightly less than what we used to have in terms of progress learners, but we want to believe that our candidates or our learners are now passing in their own right. In terms of what Dr. Mthembu already presented, you can see that this class of 2025 is showing a bit of strength in a number of subjects compared to previous years. So across all the subjects we're going to present, I'm not mentioning them one by one, you can see that the number of candidates have increased just because the general candidature as well has increased. Now, with regards to our preparation, I'm just going to touch in brief in the interest of time, but as I mentioned, we follow a standards-based approach. So that means in every key activity relating to examination, the examination cycle, we develop what we call standards, and against these standards, we monitor, support, and evaluate the provinces. So for instance, on this particular aspect of timetabling, there were standards there, and we present to you the current status, which shows we did meet them. I'm just going to pick on one key one to explain, and then I'll go through all the others very quickly. With regards to registration of examination centers, for example, we developed standards that indicates that only Umalusi accredited independent centers must be registered as exam centers. And these independent centers must apply on an annual basis, and they must be evaluated, the contractual agreements must be entered into, etc. And where we have candidates that are not registered against any center, then provinces develop or establish what we call designated centers, and these candidates can write there, as well as maybe candidates from unaccredited independent centers. So that's our standard. And we can indicate in terms of our current status that we did meet all of those, as you can see on this slide, and I'm not going to go through the detail. Now, we set a total of 162 question papers and purchased another 37 from the IEB, and all those papers were quality assured and approved by Umalusi and have been released to provinces. As we speak, provinces are in the process of printing. You would note that the examinations have already commenced this week. So basically, our week 1 papers are being written currently. Week 2 papers have already been printed and are in the storage points. Week 3 papers are ready to ship. So it's in a cycle like that. And we're saying that at this point, provinces are actually busy with the week 4 printing. Now, these are the number of centers that we have. 6,376 public centers and 579 independent centers. And so we have approximately 6,955 centers where exams are going to be written. Now, with regards to monitoring, we are expecting to at least have 70% monitoring coverage with regards to across all provinces. We do note that some provinces are able to actually have 100% coverage, others not. But in a couple of subjects where the candidature is not as much, we actually have 100% monitoring coverage. Now, very briefly taking you through preparations for marking. All the 9 provinces have already selected markers. They will be receiving their appointment letters soon. Maybe just to also indicate that the selection is based on the PEM criteria. However, we do note that in this year, there are a couple of subjects where we do not have enough markers, where there's shortage of markers. So what we have done, or what provinces have done, is that although the PEM allows for a 15% intake of novice markers, in some cases that pool or that 15% has had to be increased to make up for where we don't have enough markers. In other cases, the provinces have gone on a second recruitment drive and are going to run through up till the marking starts to see if they can get more. In other cases, we have what we call early sessions. In other words, you would have marking of one paper taking place before the main marking sessions so that the same markers can be used in another paper, especially in the case of languages where you have multiple papers. What we call the standardization of marking will commence on Monday. It is a process where we standardize the marking guidelines so that every additional possible correct answer or accurate answer is included in the marking guideline. This exercise is undertaken by DBE panel members as well as all provincial chief markers and internal moderators and curriculum specialists to ensure that the marking guidelines are extended to cover as much as possible all the possible correct answers. So this is going to start from the 27th of October, which is on Monday next week, and it will carry on to the 30th of November when marking is expected to start. And of course, all those marking guidelines will be approved and signed off by Umalusi before they are used for marking. In the process as well, there will be training of these chief markers and internal moderators to ensure that they are able to mark within what we call a tolerance range, then only are they allowed to lead the marking process in their provinces. Now, these are the number of marking centers we're going to have, 184 this year. I told you about the early sessions in some provinces to make up for shortages. So you can see the 3 provinces there that have early sessions, and we're expecting a total of 51,000 plus markers this year. We are ready to capture the marks. So mark capturing, provinces have already appointed mark capturers. They have also identified the capture centers, so we're ready for that as well. School-based assessment as well has been quality assured, and we're finalizing the quality assurance of that. In terms of the management of irregularities, while we do not just plan to manage them, we actually follow a very proactive process so that we carry out advocacy programs. You would note that there was the pledge signing ceremony just last week where our candidates' children were pledging to confirm that they will not participate in acts of dishonesty. But we've also taken it further. We have what we call a commitment agreement, which parents as well sign to commit to their support also. These are important dates I want to put forward. Minister announcing on the 12th of January 2026, followed by provincial releases on the 13th of January. We are not oblivious of the fact that there are a couple of risks that we face when we manage examination. Inadequate staffing is one of them, but however, what provinces have done is they have drawn staff from other units to support the exam directorate in carrying out the exam, but especially in monitoring. While we also are aware that in every large-scale public exam, there's a risk of leakage, we have also been in communication, constant collaboration with NATJOINTS and from provinces through ProvJux as well for intelligence information. Staff are being vetted and all our storage points were audited in terms of security. Inclement weather and protest action we saw last year, especially in Eastern Cape and KZN, we had issues with inclement weather. So this year we have also prepared for that. We've spoken to NATJOINTS as well as ProvJux. But apart from that, our chief invigilators have been conscientized that once candidates arrive at their center, even if those candidates were not registered at that center, they should be allowed to write, just in case they cannot get to their registered centers due to any of these issues, whether it's weather problems or protest actions. And we have other risks that we have also mentioned on their mitigation strategy. So basically, exams have started, and out of the 199 papers that our candidates have to write, they have written approximately 28 by today. This is just giving you a snapshot of the papers that were being written this week up till today, which is Afrikaans. Yesterday was our biggest day where all our 766,000 candidates wrote English home language file and SAL. And today we do have a big number as well. We have written computer applications, technology and information technology practical examinations from Tuesday and Wednesday. And next week is also going to be a very busy week. All the African home languages will be written on Monday and Tuesday, and we'll have English as well, and ending with mathematics, which is a very big subject on Friday next week. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair, good afternoon, Minister, and the honorable members. We are taking you through a second chance metric program. There's a program that we're giving learners who either want to rewrite or they want to improve their results. When the minister announces the results on the 12th, not every house will be excited. There will be some houses that are saying we didn't get the results we expected. So the department is providing a program so that we support. Here we indicate how we supported these learners, preparing them for the October-November examination. We had classes after hours and over weekends using the school. We've got a broadcast solution. We also provided with a printed LTSM, and of course we have digital platforms that we share with the learners. So there we show a number of partners, Department of Higher Education. We also have a partnership with Correctional Services for the inmates, and we have also a private sector that is gaining interest in supporting our young people. Here we indicated how we supported them. We delivered the LTSM as already indicated, and this slide here we show you the broadcast programs that we're making available to our learners. Here's the printed materials. Many of them are available for both part-time and, of course, the cohort learners who are full-time. This is a digital platform where learners are able to access these programs online, different platforms. And we have a collaboration here with the Department of Higher Education. Our minister wrote a letter to the Minister of Higher Education that we need to work together strongly, if possible, move second chance to DHET. So we're working together. We have a collaboration task team that is working on that. And we are pleased that the Minister Manamela identified these areas that the task team needs to work. One, for example, I'll quote one, integration of skills. In other words, the CETA are offering training programs. We are saying these young people must access that. The next one is the international scholarship for students. As you may be aware, some of all our learners who pass matric, they may not necessarily get admission because of the space and competition. Department of Higher Education has got international universities that may take some of those learners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. We are done from our part.
Okay, thank you very much. DG, members, we agreed that we are also going to take Umalusi because it's the second part of the state of NSC readiness exam. So we must also take them because it's almost this one report, but we want to hear from the Umalusi side on their state of readiness. So that when we ask complete questions. CEO, over to you.
Announce it separately, Chair, so that they
Yeah.
say we are in cahoots.
Yes, yes, yes. But you are also doing the same. You are doing the same. I think the culprits in this meeting has been DG and Kabazela.
And we don't have money for his counseling. Because there's no money for his counseling.
Thank you.
CEO, I was saying that you don't be distracted by the members. So you are just being distracted by the
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, Honorable Minister, Honorable Kwahube, Honorable Deputy Minister, Dr. Mahaule, the Director General of the Department of Basic Education, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, colleagues from the Department of Basic Education and Umalusi. I want to tender the apology of Professor Eunice Balin. Prof is out of the country, is a visiting professor in India, supporting another university. So with me today is Dr. Mary Antoinette Dliwayo, who is the acting executive manager at Umalusi. And then we've got Mr. Bikili Porter, who is the senior manager for public relations and communications, and Mr. Andy Tulo, who is the manager for quality assurance of assessment monitoring. Chairperson, we are going to talk about the state of readiness of Umalusi to oversee and quality assure the different assessment bodies. Our focus is going to be on the NSC, with special emphasis on the Department of Basic Education. We've got points on Sakai and IB. However, we have agreed that we are going to be focusing on the DBE. What is on the screen is the outline of the presentation. I'm not going to read through it, and I'm going to just go straight to the mandate that we have. We are a quality council for general and further education and training, and we derive our mandate from two pieces of legislation, namely the National Qualification Framework Act 67 of 2008 as amended. And it assigns Umalusi different responsibilities. We have to develop and implement policy and criteria for assessment for the qualifications on our sub-framework of qualifications with regard to quality assurance within the sub-framework. And we've got the following responsibilities: develop and implement policy for quality assurance, ensure the integrity and credibility of quality assurance, and ensure that such quality assurance as is necessary for the sub-framework is undertaken. Another piece of legislation is the General and Further Education and Training Quality Assurance Act, number 58 of 2001, as amended. Now, according to Section 17A of that Act, Council must perform the external moderation of assessment of all assessment bodies and educational institutions. And it also says Council may adjust raw marks during the standardization process. And also the Council must, with the concurrence of the Director General and after consultation with the relevant assessment body or education institution, approve the publication of the results of learners if it is satisfied that the assessment body or educational institution has satisfied a number of requirements. One of them, one or two, I'll read one or two, that they've conducted the assessment free from any irregularity that may jeopardize the integrity of the assessment or its outcome, complied with the requirements prescribed by Council for conducting assessments. Now, we've got the following qualifications that are on our sub-framework of qualifications, and they are assessed by the different assessment bodies. We've got the Department of Basic Education, which assesses the National Senior Certificate and the amended Senior Certificate. And then we've got the Department of Higher Education and Training, which assesses the National Certificate Vocational, the General Education and Training Certificate, and the NATED programs. Then we've got Sakai, also assessing the National Senior Certificate and the JTC, and IEB, National Senior Certificate and the JTC. You'll observe, as you look at that slide, Chair, that it is 3 assessment bodies that quality assure the National Senior Certificate. And we ensure that we maintain the same standards across the different assessment bodies for the same qualification, because at the end of the day, the students are getting the same certificate. I'm at this point going to, with your permission, Chair, hand over to Dr. Gliwayo to proceed with the presentation.
Thank you, CEO, and good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Minister, and the DM, and also the DG and the House at large. I'm going to give you a background on the audit that we have conducted as Umalusi. So Umalusi actually is actually mandated to moderate and monitor and verify all quality assurance processes. This is done in line with our quality assurance of assessment framework. One of the key processes in that framework is to ensure that we audit the state of readiness of all the private and public assessment bodies to conduct, administer, and manage the national examinations. And in the main is to make sure that there is compliance to the directives for improvement and compliance that would have been issued in the previous examination cycle. So the approach that we follow is the risk-based management approach, where we are to ensure the integrity and the credibility of these examinations. So in 2025, we conducted a desktop review where we conducted a judicious verification of all the assessment bodies and their ability to conduct these examinations. And this was conducted between the days provided, and this report will therefore present the findings of that audit that we had conducted with the 3 assessment bodies. One of the key things that we do is to follow a rigorous framework for the quality assurance of assessment. This quality assurance of assessment framework is in the main implemented to ensure that all the certificates that we're going to issue are of high standard and they are credible. We start with the moderation of question papers, ending with the certification. I'll take it that we have read all the other processes. You will note that one of the key processes in those ones bulleted there is the verification of the state of readiness of the assessment bodies to conduct the 2025 or any examinations. In terms of the status of the processes that we had undertaken, what we came up to realize was that there is the development of question papers and all the related assessments that were conducted that are currently conducted for these examinations had complied with all the requirements, and all the question papers were then fully approved by Umalusi for them to be administered. The candidate registration as well, these registration processes was actually conducted with the requirements that have been set for all the 3 assessment bodies. We also noted that the risk profiles of these assessment bodies have been conducted with the establishment of the centers, and all the mitigations have been looked at by Umalusi. All the candidates that are currently sitting for these examinations have been issued with the admission letters, the timetables, and as it is gleaned from these examinations, there are no queries at present because all of them have those admission letters to write for the examinations. The printing of examination materials, which starts from the question papers and any other material relevant, was also audited. And all these processes, we also noted that there are clear procedures and security measures in place that have been outlined. So our audit process confirmed that, and also we've noted that the first consignments for these materials have also been handed out. The invigilation, which is key to the writing of each examination process, we also noted that the training sessions of all the innovators have also been undertaken. And so key to this process is the marking. So the marking would require the recruitment, selection, and appointment of markers, and this has been done also diligently. And the quality assurance of marking, the marking schedules are there. And as it is also known, there is the subject called life orientation, and this was also done according to book on the 1st of September 2025. Now, the key findings that we established for these examinations, we categorize them according to the focus areas. In terms of the management of resources, you will note that with the DBE, we noted that there is some personnel challenges, especially with the filling of the posts, especially in the national examinations, the public examinations. What we are urging is that this risk needs to be looked at. There must be urgent attention paid by the national department to ensure that the sustainable and lasting solutions are actually put in place in response to this challenge so that it doesn't repeat itself year after year. So Umalusi strongly encourages the department to pursue a sustainable, long-standing solution to address this issue and ensure the stability of future examination cycles. The size and scope of the examination has already been spoken to. However, what I want to emphasize in this slide is that there are candidates who have concessions and accommodations, and we have noted that all those candidates who are eligible have been granted all those concessions, including those who with immigrant status. Umalusi also acknowledges with appreciation the implementation of the screening, identification, assessment, and support policy, as well as the latest manuals which were issued by the DBE, which aims to standardize the management of accommodations and concessions. In that way, we are satisfied that all the 3 assessment bodies have established effective systems for the registration of the candidates for this examination. Also, the establishment of the registration centers have already been spoken to. Of note, what we have noted with the DBE, that we target those centers which we audited that offer in the main the IT, which has already been written, the CAT and the South African Sign Language, that is the home language one. So in other words, this has already been done. Also, the risk profiles. The assessment bodies are required to profile their examination, that's the centers. So we have also noted that the DBA also has profiled their candidates, and we are satisfied with the profiling implemented by all 3 assessment bodies and the measures that have been put in place to address these identified risks. The internal assessments as well, these are your SBAs, the PETs and the orals. All these processes have been undertaken, and some are still to be completed. And Umalusi is also satisfied that the internal assessment requirements have been complied with, and especially for phase 1 that has been completed. And we are confident that the plans for the moderation of the remaining subjects will go well as planned. The printing, packaging, and storage of examination materials. Here, what is important is that a risk assessment of the printing, packaging, storage, and distribution has been conducted by the assessment bodies, and appropriate mitigation strategies are in place. Now, regarding the DBE, most storage locations met the non-negotiable criteria used for categorization. In addition to that, we want to say the security protocols related to the printing of the examination materials remain classified and are managed with the highest level of confidentiality, understanding that these are materials that we don't want any leakages of any examination materials. For the conduct of examinations, all the assessment bodies have adhered to the regulation governing the conduct, the administration, and the management of the examinations. And we have noted also the training of the invigilators, the chief invigilators across the 3 assessment bodies. And we're also satisfied that the coverage that has been established by the assessment bodies and with the plans that have been put in place to uphold the credibility and integrity of this writing phase. However, we also want to bring to your attention that in terms of the marker selection and appointment with the DBE, we have noted also that whereas there are improvements in terms of the marker selection, as already alluded to also by the DBE, there are areas where we find that there are subjects where there were shortages of markers, and we've identified this. We are also satisfied that the DBE strategies in place, which include additional marker recruitment drives, early start of marking, extending of the duration of markers, will ensure that those gaps where there are shortages are actually mitigated. With the other 2 assessment bodies, we have noted no shortages in terms of markers that are going to mark these examinations. Based on the work done to date, Umalusi is satisfied that the process has been conducted in accordance with the assessment body's specific policies for the recruitment, selection, and appointment of the markers. All the marks of the candidates need to be captured at the end, so the capturing systems have also been audited, and we're also going to benchmark this against the May-June examinations that have been written this year. Irregularities are some of the things that we cannot ignore. All the 3 assessment bodies have established structures that are going to manage the irregularities in the event that we come across them. Should those irregularities arise, they will be managed as contemplated in Annexure M of the regulations governing the conduct, administration, and management of examinations. These regulations, they clearly define the types of irregularities and provide a framework for stringent management. Overall, we can say that Umalusi is satisfied that the risk assessments have been conducted and mitigation strategies are in place to prevent any irregularities for the November 2025 examinations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dliwayo. In closing, Chairperson, I'm going to be very brief and say we remain with 2 challenges. One challenge is that of the principals and teachers who disallow candidates from writing in order to prop up their results. Any students with the risk of failing, in some instances, are excluded from writing the exam, and saying that is unacceptable and they should report to the officials at the district and at the provincial level. The other challenge that we're facing is online schools, which are unregulated as things stand, as indicated in the previous meeting we had with the Portfolio Committee. And we share with the members the non-negotiables that we have currently in place in order to control the space until we've got this regulated. I'm not going to read through the measures that have been put in place as non-negotiables. They're available for the members to read. On that note, I want to thank the Honorable Chairperson and the committee members, Minister, Deputy Minister, for allowing us to make this presentation. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. So it's only Umalusi that receives. What is this thing now? No. This committee is becoming some ad hoc commission or some sort. I'm worried. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, CEO and the team. I think these claims maybe are the claims that from the Auditor General's report. I think the Auditor General was saying Umalusi is doing very well. I think everybody's like, yeah, no, Umalusi, yeah, you know. So thank you very much. We are now going to take questions. So the questions are for all the presentations. So we'll allow you time because it's for about 3 presentations. So we'll allow you time to ask questions so that you can get the responses. We'll start with Umkize. We'll come to Honorable Sharif, Honorable Law, and Honorable Ngobeni. You did mention that you have to leave. If you at any time that you want to us to slot you in, do mention so that we can slot you in. Yeah. Okay. Honorable Mkize.
Okay, thank you very much. Very quickly, Chair, it's just a comment that DBE got unqualified through unqualified audit with opinion, and I don't want you to miss that part. With findings, thank you. Because we need to go and fix that findings part. So let's not run away from that. Last point is just to say, Chair, thank you very much, CEO. Me and you have been communicating a lot, Minister, trying to shut down unregistered schools in KZN. And we have shut down one already called Matric Scholars, which was situated in DUT, and we have arrested the owner of the school. So we are active. And yes, she should be in jail as I speak, working with the KZN Superintendent General to arrest. So we'll be doing more of arrest, Minister. And one of the ideas that we have now is to work with you to put together a special task force of Parliament, SAPS, and the PEDS department, and create a hotline for people to report unregistered schools to quickly go and effect an arrest. That's a stage we're operating at now. It's no longer business as usual. It cannot be. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mkhize. Any comment on that, Minister?
Well, just to say, I fully support Honorable Mkhize's view that we should have a clampdown on illegal and unregistered schools, and that I think the idea of a hotline is one that is quite welcomed, because these are people who are scamming our young people. And we should be taking a far more proactive approach. So if there's anything on our side that we can do to support the work, whether it's setting up the hotline, whatever the case may be, I think it's an inspired idea. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. The next was Honorable Sharif. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. My goodness. Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. My first question is directed to the DG. The Minister, you put out a statement a couple of weeks ago on the education assistance. And you spoke in your statement very thoroughly around consequence management. So I want to ask the DG, as the principal or the head of the department, one, what consequence management has been implemented so far? And number two, will the EAs be paid next week? So I don't know, should they answer and I ask, or how do you want that to be done? Okay, cool. My next set of questions is, in the APP, you speak around some of the challenges around LTSM. I want to know what is the current status as of today, the 24th of October. Is the processes in place for LTSM to be delivered? Because we would hate to run around like headless chicken in the beginning of the year looking for LTSM products, especially in KZN. I want to know how often are teachers assessed in terms of skills, and specifically to note where gaps may lie in terms of continued training. And then I want to know more information, because I've only heard about it in passing or while doing my research when joining the committee. Chair, I can't believe it's been like almost 2 months. It feels like I've been here for a year. But I want to know if you can give us more information on the collaboration with Vodacom around the app that tracks infrastructure. And myself and Honorable Mkhize was having a conversation yesterday around having some sort of live document that tracks and traces and has updates on infrastructure across the country. I see that there was also a decrease in Funza Lushaka students eligible to be placed at schools. It went from 74% in 2023 to 54% in 2024. So can I just get an understanding around that? Chair, in terms of the internal audit report, so this is directed to you guys. You spoke in the presentation around consequence management being weak in the department. And I feel that this is a major problem, and it needs to be corrected. Chairperson, we cannot continue to have officials working in departments that are there to collect salary and collect checks and not really do anything. So I want to find out, and maybe this is for the department more than it is for you, but issues around what are the plans to mitigate this one? You also speak about capacity constraints in 2 of the programs. What are the plans to mitigate that? And then I think this comes back to my EA question, is around issues around implementing agents' accountabilities and sticking to MOUs. Now, we had an explanation about the EAs, and in the MOU, as the DM explained in that meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, one of the things that needed to be done is submitting attendance registers. And that is why it was late with the payment. But the MOU states clearly that there has to be attendance registers. So how do you ensure that you keep implementing agents, whoever it is, as well as yourselves accountable? Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's it, Chair. The state of readiness looks good. I think what we can do at Umalusi, the reason why I was clapping is because you are happy on the state of readiness. So that means that they have done what they needed to do. And if you had to come and give us more issues, I don't think we would have been as happy as we are. But it's really good to see that the state of readiness is ready. We wish the matrics the best of luck moving into their second week. And we really look forward to having great results on the 12th of January when the announcement is made. And just a note, Chair, all of us struggled during COVID. I can't imagine how these learners struggled and the resilience that they have to now be in matric and writing as the class of 2025. So just big ups to them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we respond to the questions, Minister, DG, and yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I will take two of the questions. I know one of them was directed to the internal audit chair. The one is, and I think it bears repeating. The one is around consequence management. I agree with you, Honourable Member, that was one of the issues that we raised. And it's something that, as I said, we shouldn't only be holding implementing agents accountable, but we should also be holding ourselves to a far higher standard. And so consequence management is definitely something that was also in the report of the AG that was directed to the executive authority as something that I need to have greater oversight on. And so I think it's definitely something that I'm taking forward and taking quite seriously. With regards to the Safe Schools app, one of the things that we decided when we were really working hard on trying to meet the 31st of March deadlines on eradicating of pit toilets, we realized that we are still only working on the 2018 safe audits that was done. And our view is that, yes, we are now 98% of the way through with clearing of those pit toilets from the SAFE initiative and the audit that was done in 2018. But that was several years ago. And our view is that there has to be a more urgent and almost immediate reporting of unsafe structures. And really the collaboration with Vodacom was to put the power also in the hands of communities to say, if you have the view that there is a pit toilet or an unsafe structure at all in your school, in your community, they built us the app. That was their donation to us. They built us the app so that we'll be able to get that information. It has been used. It was used quite a lot initially, especially at the beginning of when we launched it. And I think we have to do a little bit more work in also promoting it some more, because yes, of course, I mean, you will obviously get people who will put in things that are clearly not, they're just testing the system. But I think we benefited more than we did not from getting those, because as soon as we got that information, the office of the DG would then flag it with the province to say this needs to be verified. So I think it's a model that we can look into, maybe even upscaling. But I think it's important that it's not just a live app or a live platform just for teachers, but also communities, because they are the ones, communities and learners are the ones that we are serving at the end of the day. And if there are infrastructure problems, there has to then be response to that. Then lastly, I think also the other issue is we're going to have to, at some point, once the SAFE initiative and the SAFE audit has been cleared, we're going to have to look at how do we do a new audit. Because, as I said, the data we're working with is old. And I can guarantee you there will be still pit toilets that perhaps were not demolished, even if they were replaced toilets. we constantly need to verify and check, because infrastructure, as I always say, is a forever moving target. And so you're never going to arrive at a place where you say every single school has a well-functioning toilets, no broken infrastructure. We have to find a cheaper way, because the audit is expensive to do, a cheaper way to consistently look at the state of our infrastructure and fix it and be more responsive to it. So I don't know, Chair, if there's anything you want to add on your side on that was directed to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable Minister. Thank you. I'll be brief. In terms of consequence management, we definitely, I agree with the Minister. It is something that we're focusing on. We must look at this in two distinct categories, and that is the consequence management in terms of where we have implementing agents causing irregular expenditure, etc., where they should, well, the consequence management be applied up to repaying or like DBSA had to fire some staff, etc. So that's the one part, but you also have the department side. To quote some of the members on the committee, we were not happy at the stage with the nature of the sanctions applied, because you do get, of course, you need to adhere to the DPSA this frameworks, and all government departments must. But if you've been found guilty of certain serious transgressions and you get a final written warning or a written warning, we feel that is not sufficient. In certain cases, it warrants dismissal, and I think where criminal cases should be launched, it should be done as well. So we'll be looking at its two areas. Stella did present earlier and said one of the non-compliance was some invoices were not paid within 30 days. It's a small thing, but that's a legal non-compliance. And that was caused by colleagues in the department who did not submit the things on time. So then they caused through that a non-compliance for the department. So the audit committee also then requested that disciplinary action be taken against those. So we must see this in two areas, where the consequence for IAs and then consequence internally. But that's something also from an independent perspective we keep on monitoring. Thanks, Chairperson.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Chair. There's quite an avalanche for me. Honourable Sheriff. Yeah, maybe that's why. Okay, maybe let me start with the last response of the Chair of the Audit Committee. There's a disjuncture, Honourable Members, I want to take you into confidence. A disjuncture between a misconduct and a sanction in the public service. I'm giving this example that was given. You don't honor the invoice on time, the requisite sanction might say final written warning is the first time you do that. The gravity of the conduct that you are involved in suggests that you get a final written warning. But the impact of it is so profound that it might lead to some business closing. So that's where the problem is. I'm just giving this example. There are many. And the chair would know, I've indicated my dissatisfaction with some of the sanctions. But if I get in, I'll be interfering in a conduct management process. And therefore, the process is no longer fair when I begin to intervene. That's the difficulty that we have, the disjuncture between the misconduct and the sanction. And it permeates the entire public service. And I'm raising it here so that maybe if it comes up next time, you don't say, we told you last time. We want stronger sanctions. If I do that, even in my practice, if I have to go and account somewhere, part of my training is HR. And I know very well the distinction between the two. And I have to stay clear of what is not my turf. So that's the difficulty we have, the disjuncture between the sanction and the impact of the conduct. Minister addressed the issue of the data. Now that the tempers are a little much more favorable, I also want to say we carried out a comprehensive condition assessment many years ago on infrastructure. It was done by PwC. Yeah, big, the whole country. With the tick of the button, it could give you the school, the classroom, the conditions, even the roof, whether there's a ceiling, there's every detail. But that is old. We have not updated that, Honorable Kiza. Not that it's not there. We have not updated it. And we've been trying to update it. We said to National Treasury, we need money to update our infrastructure data. And National Treasury flatly refused from the money that they give to us. For a school backlog grant, we said, let's take part of that money to carry a comprehensive condition assessment for all our facilities in the country. Eastern Cape has done it now. Northwest has done it. Mpumalanga has done it. Yeah, Limpopo has started. But we don't want that. We don't want piecemeal. But I must also be honest with you. I will trust the condition assessment that I have done and come and put my head on the block here with you and say, here is my latest data on infrastructure. But the one that's done by, I'll have to accept it, but I will trust the one that I've done because I would have monitored everything. So, Honorable Sharif, you talked about consequence management after the failure to honor payment in end of September. You know, I forwarded the minister a very comprehensive report this morning. In fact, there are two reports. The first report, the minister said yesterday, I want a report by 9 o'clock, whether we'll be able to honor for this month, October. We've given that report to the minister. There's another report that details, chronicle the whole history of this thing. It's called a multi-party agreement. And I would advise everyone not to consider anything called multi-party. That's the most complicated and most difficult thing to make sense of. Because you're managing different role players, you have no control over them. You call a meeting, some don't pitch. They don't report to me, I can't force them to come to a meeting. If they were reporting to me, I would force them to do things on the spot and take accountability. So that's the difficulty about this thing. And if I were to be honest with you, it's been a total fiasco right from the beginning. Spectacular fiasco. Right from the beginning. From the contract itself was supposed to have been signed before the beginning of the financial year. It was not signed in April, it was signed in May because of somebody who came in, pushed. I work very well with the acting DG of the Department of Employment and Labor. I call her anytime, I send her messages, she responds. I have to go through other parties through the acting DG. And you can imagine the fact that she's acting DG, how much authority and influence is she also wielding by virtue of the fact that she's the acting DG. I can't force UIF, I can't force IDC to do certain things. I can only force people who report to me to do certain things. That's where the difficulty comes from. But in terms of October, we've been working around the clock. We've put out, because, you know, from face value, you can think that it's only about attendance registers. The first thing was this biometric system, assuming that all our schools are connected. And you know that that's not the case. And I even said to the team, why did you accept this thing? They said, look, if we had rejected it, it would have meant that these young people are out there, don't get this opportunity of short-term employment. We've taken the risk, but we thought that we'll manage the risk, and the risks seem to be too overwhelming. Of course, the issue that we are dealing with, as you correctly pointed out, is loading of attendance registers. I'm working with HODs, I'm working with MECs to make sure that that happens. We are in a better space now than we were last month. Over 95% of attendance registers have been loaded. But the difficulty is that we have not met the deadline of the 15th of every month, which is part of the contract. And that's part of the challenges. I'm being woefully honest with you. But the DG has assured me last night, she called me after 10 o'clock last night, we spoke. I said, my minister doesn't take anything other than that we are paying for October and we are going to pay everybody. And she has assured me that she's going to pull all the stops to make sure that everybody is paid come the end of October. I'm following that closely. I'm having a meeting with all the 9 provinces after this meeting to just close on this thing of the attendance registers. Because for me, it's fairly easy. We get them, we load them, then it should be up to the other parties to make sure that we forward the tranche to us and we pay everybody. So that's what I can give for now. LTSM, we met with 7 out of 9 provinces. We left only with Free State and Mpumalanga. KZN is one of the provinces that we've met. Our biggest risk and red flag is KZN. It is KZN. Minister did not indicate, maybe she's forgotten and DM, that we went there and Minister in DM, I hope this thing is not looking at me. How they did that, I don't know. They twisted the arm of the Premier, the MEC for Education and MEC for Finance, on 5 things that must be delivered. 5 things. The first thing was salaries for all employees. The other one was around LTSM. The third one was learner transport. Luyanda, you have to help me. The other 2 I've forgotten. But I thought these ones are more important because they are close to the question that you asked. I've forgotten the other 2, but there were 5 things. Yeah, payment and administration of the exams, internal and external, including the payment of markers. I've forgotten the last one. What's the last one? Yeah.
Service providers.
Okay. But what has now happened is that after that meeting, fortunately, there was no money for any LTSM, whether stationery or textbooks. KZN said to us, led by the Premier, there is no money. After that meeting between the Minister and the Premier, at least they were able to find money for stationery, but 7 months late. 7 months late. And KZN said to us, then know that we've received money for stationery only. There won't be top-up for textbooks. Don't expect that in KZN. It will happen in other provinces, but not in KZN because they don't have money. The money that they have secured is to buy stationery, where learners are writing. Stationery. Which is not that bad, but ideally you'd want top-up so that every learner, they have a textbook. So that's what they've told us. And stationery is likely to be delivered after the reopening of schools for some schools. So let me be woefully honest with you. Assessment of skills for teachers, we use what we called quality management systems, QMS. It used to be IQMS for those who were in education before. Teachers are assessed by their school management teams, HODs. They identify areas of development or areas of weaknesses, if you like, and areas where their skills need to be developed in. So that's what we use. For office-based staff, we use PMDS, Performance Management and Development System. We also identify areas of weaknesses there. Collaboration with Vodacom on infrastructure regarding the app. Minister covered that. Yeah, Minister is covered. Funza Lushaka graduates. Yes, I think there are new areas of need that are beginning to emerge. We're beginning to have surpluses in areas that historically were areas of need. We're talking about absolute shortage and relative shortage. South Africa does not experience an absolute shortage of teachers. The Talis report also confirmed that, which was presented and launched yesterday for South Africa. And I want to urge you, Chair, in the fullness of time, you must come and present the Talis report to you, so that you get to see how South Africa compares with other countries from empirical data, not what the journalists are putting as headlines on the newspaper, from the experts in the world. And I think they'll tell you that even South Africa, I think in terms of this Talis, if I'm not mistaken, we are the only African country that participated there. So we have the reduction in Funza Lushaka graduates because in areas where we used to experience a lot of high shortages, those areas have been reduced. And some of the new areas are around your new skills of technical education, coding and robotics, but also in areas of Afrikaans and African languages. Those are the new areas of need where we are beginning to redirect resources of Funza Lushaka in. I think Minister and the Chair consequence management is not weak in the department. And there are several areas where you deal with consequence management. Some of them have been covered by the Chair of the Audit Committee. You deal with consequence management from a contractual point of view, employer and employee. That's where it happens. The other one is entities like implementing agents, where you deal with consequence management. The other important one, which I know you've got an interest in, what are the consequences that can follow if provinces have not performed? And I think yesterday or the day before we talked about it. There is an avenue in the National Education Policy Act, but it's a long way. The minister will have to use the National Council of Provinces to get provinces to have consequences meted out to them, which is a long, winded way. Sometimes it's not even encouraging to follow. But you are right, in terms of people who do business on our behalf, the contract, the MOUs are there, and I must accept I'm the first one to concede that our MOUs historically have not been strong enough. The only MOU that I think for infrastructure was the strongest of all 10 education departments is the KZN. KZN, in terms of holding, implementing agents accountable, I think they are leading all of us. And I said we must learn from them because they impose penalties, including taking money from implementing agents, and they use that money for building schools. And I think that's the way we need to go. Implementing agents, accountabilities, and MOU, I think I've covered that. And I think the issue of the attendance register I also explained. But honestly speaking, I can't wait for this thing to come to an end so that we get to focus on our core business. It's distracting us, it's causing unnecessary anxiety, and it's difficult to deal with something that we have no control over. I'm woefully honest. Thank you.
Hi, well, young people should not hear you saying that. Yeah, they should not hear you saying that. Honorable Ngobeni, are you still fine on time, or should we give you an opportunity? Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. Let's try again to squish your questions quicker. Yeah.
No, thanks, Chair. I could not speak due to the meeting procedure at the time, and I had to respect it because I could have arrived before the agenda was adopted and stuff like that. It's quite significant. And I think what becomes quite important is to say that the APP, the budget, and the annual report, including the AG, they all play an important role, DM, in such a significant way that says that the APP will set out targets and then the budget will be allocated to perform and make sure that there's money allocated and then we're going to spend according to the timeless part we've put in, as we have set the time. And then lastly, the AGSA will come and assess through his own audit report to compile an annual report that determines the discrepancies, inefficiencies, or efficient ways that we could have done things as the department. And given the fact that we've went back, and then we've went back to the audit outcome, we went back to the annual report, one should say that we are left with the minor issues to deal with regard to the audit outcomes. You know, Alafuma lose the fact that by the time when they had a chance to go and rectify, they made sure they went to rectify before the statements were finalized by the AGSA, and they made sure that there's proper compliance with their PFMA and treasury regulations, opposite to the DBE. DBE, you've got an issue with your infrastructural challenges, backlogs that you do not finish in timelessly, and I've heard one of your explanations was mainly for the fact that service providers, agencies that could implement were a bit not reconciling what the department with regard to what is expected from them. So all of these submissions that we've made and all of the issues that we identified, I think they seek to take us forward, because 95% to 5%, it's a huge milestone. In fact, you have done yourself a good as a department, because you have rectified, you've made sure you go to the audit action plans, you respond to them. Even though say it is not there, I would have wanted to have my view what says with regard to how they repetitively get regressed in terms of how they repeat their financial reporting and the environmental way to do things. So I think in general, Chair, when coming to the annual report and the AG's report, I would want to say to the department, take tune from Umalus. They've made sure that they align their reporting as per what the AGS want, because we can say they've collectively working towards their aspects and items or components identified by the AGSA, and I'm quite happy on how you have aligned, and I'm happy that you've also advanced. One of your work is to align the digital way to do things, so they're able to be responsive immediately and be able to identify and track the key issues, which I think DBE, you've got an issue with ICT issues. That was an issue identified by the AGSA that will need to improve with regard to that. So those are the things that you need to look at. Your unspending on the 260 million, you justified it, but we should look on to how we spend our money so that we're able to gap into the realistic way of saying, when we audit, as we do our APPs and our targets, we would have known that the impact that we are making and the report we are doing is not compliance and malicious reporting, but it's a matter of saying that we are trying to align and impact. I'm raising all of this because we've been confronted by oversight, and we've seen disparities, and we've seen different types of fundings. They're not equitably enough for all the schools, because I was quite concerned, Chair, when coming to funding models of the schools. Let me put it down the DBE. It can't be that we are funding independent schools or private schools much more than the rural schools or public schools that falls under us. And then tomorrow we want to say those ones don't fall under us, we've got jurisdictions. We must look on to the funding modalities to deal with the disparities. And then we're able to deal with what is dealing with us. Because most affected schools, whether we look on to the AGSA audit report, the infrastructure backlog are at quintal 1 and quintal 3. Failure where there is inadequate capacity to deal with maintenance budget in many other ways, because we know what are the challenges. So I think we must go look on to making sure that when we come, we don't have repetitive audit outcomes, but we come and have an improvement, and we are going to pilot and make sure that we give a way to people to understand what could have been the outcome. So you have improved noticeably well, and I think what becomes quite important, deal with the infrastructure backlog, deal with your ICT issues, and then later furthermore deal with your SCM regulatory process. That is also a concern to the AG, who could have said to that process to say following the SCM process is quite a concern as per the DBE. So also, while the SASA is not there, let's go and rectify sales in terms of data management, how they fail to comprehend and manage to follow data management. So those are the issues that I think I've identified. Other than that, I'm quite content how you could have dealt with the report, because when I look onto the previous years and how we would have aligned, we are agreeing now. Hence, we are able to identify the loss gaps and say these are the issues that we can agree upon. So, I don't have much to speak about, but let's deal with disparities. Let's deal with admissions that are trying to put us back, because part of our predetermined objectives, if we've planned to say we're going to have 100% operational, what is also dealing with us is our policies in terms of how we're implementing them effectively. So your admission, your language policies, the one that might take us back in terms of your KPIs, if you look at your programs. And I've seen your programs. It's only program 3 where you did well, and out of the program 3 it's only 1 target where you have not performed, and you've given you sufficient reason. I think it's quite important and significant that you work on to making sure that you attain all of the targets and they are responsive towards the issues that we have raised. DGs and Honorable Mkhize, they are two united, Chair, through you. So, Chair, I want to acknowledge and accept the reports, and I think I've given my insight in terms of that. Now, Chair, there's an issue that came to my attention as I was roaming around the streets of Warrenton in Khumuka Baker, Chair. I don't know, the Minister, is there a vacancy post that was filled in of the DG curriculum? DDG curriculum? At DBE, yes. But is there a process that's unfolding? I wanted to check.
Maybe finish the question.
Okay, no, because it's not an interactive session. There's a information that arrived to my attention that one, there was a post of DDG curriculum that was advertised. There was a process that unfolded accordingly. And then in the process that took place, there was a little bit of interference that took place. One, the person who supposedly could have been number 1 was overlooked, and there was a letter that the minister could have written to DPSA that seeks to rather take option number 2. I want to clarify and I want to get clarity from the allegations. And then what allegations that had been sent to us is that prior to appointment, there was an interference as per the act or the law perceives to the minister to look onto the report of the committee issue. And then according to the report, the minister has written a letter to rather opt for a second person who's a person of interest, and I was expecting much more professionalism and ethical way to deal with issues, because the first task that we were spoken about was to fight a proper procedures to be followed. So, Minister, these are the issues. There's a post where the minister could have interfered in the post where you have written a letter to the Minister of DBSA to seek recourse to take the second person, not the first person, who could have passed all the assessments and all of the competency tests as per the requirements of the post. And regarding that, the person you want to take as a second person, Minister, I'm told is a person who works in your office, who has a conflict of relationship with the person you're going to appoint. That's why you are overlooking a young black children who could have passed all the imperatives of the audit. I want to get clarity. I'm not quite inclined about that. I wanted to understand. And if it's true, I don't think it's acceptable that we must overlook, because we've said the country must look young and must not overlook for those who are able to come and change the situation. And it's unlike us if we want to treat things like that. If indeed that lady is competent and that lady deserves to be appointed, it's quite significant and important that one receives a fully fledged report onto that. Chair, I think with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister DG.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, Honorable Low. There is a process that is unfolding of appointing a DDG in the department. There are 2 vacancies currently. There's DDG Curriculum Policy and Development, and there's DDG Teacher Development. Right?
Yes.
So we are currently in the process of filling both those posts. Perhaps let me, just for the benefit of the members, let me perhaps outline what the Public Service Act says about the appointments of DDGs and DGs. DDG appointments are done in a panel that the minister puts together with either other ministers or the deputy ministers, and with the presence of the DG and HR officials. That's the panel that the minister puts together in terms of DDG appointments. In terms of appointing DGs, the minister puts together a panel of ministers to interview DGs, and DGs are appointed by the president, and they report to the president. With regards to DDGs, the appointment may be made by the minister, however, it needs to go to cabinet for concurrence. None of those things have yet taken place. We have done interviews, and the process is still ongoing. And so I'm not going to delve into the details of who is doing what, because that would be jeopardizing the HR process. But I must categorically state that there's nobody who has been shortlisted for that position who works in my office. The ministerial handbook is very clear about who can work in your office, how many people can work in your office, and it would be deeply unethical to have anybody who works for a minister to be appointed in the administration, because the assumption is that somebody who works for a minister is somebody who is politically connected, somebody who's politically aligned to the minister. It would be deeply unethical for anybody who works for a minister to find themselves working at such a high level position within the department. So I can categorically state to you, none of the people we interviewed are even known to me, let alone having worked with me.
Well, what I can comment on is the candid and frank advice given by Honorable Lowe that going forward we could improve in areas where we did not perform well in. I welcome the advice. We learn from everyone, including Umalusi. We're not going to despise Umalusi because of their size. There are good things that they do, small as they might be, which will help us a great deal. So, and they've done that. In fact, it's not the first time that Umalusi is performing at this level where they are. Or they used to be there, they dropped. Dr. Rakumetsi knows, I think it's a year or so, but I'm happy that they are back, as the AG said. I hope it's going to happen very soon, that we also be in the same league that they are in. What is colloquially known as a clean audit report. I also want to boost in social gatherings a clean audit report of the basic education department. Thank you.
I'm with you on that.
Okay. Honorable Ngobeni.
Hey, thank you very much, Minister. You know, I'm so glad. As Honorable Lowe was speaking, I thought I was about to change my flight, just to make sure that we are good. So I'm glad that the Minister has categorically denied all of those things, because that would be deeply concerning. I think a lot of my questions were responded to, because I definitely had a question, DG, around the Funza Lushaka. But you answered that, and I was concerned about the numbers there. I also just wanted clarity, and I will listen online if I have to go. I wanted to commend the fact that there's been an increase in funding for ECD subsidies per child. I wanted to get a sense whether how these will be directed. Will they be directed equitably across socioeconomic spectrum? How will that be? How will those funds be dispersed? And I heard, and I'm not sure which official was speaking to this, but the ASIDI effort, is that being phased out? And if it is, what will replace it? I think I was not clear on that. And the other one is, Minister, this is one that I think is very much attached to your, I think, ultimate legacy as a minister, as you arrived to say you really want to be done with pit latrines. I want to get a sense, and I know that the target wasn't met when the initial undertaking was made, but where are you now with regards to your sense of this issue, particularly given that you've had all of these implementing agencies who kind of, perpetually not deliver on their projects. I just want to get a sense from you where you are now with regards to that, so that we don't remain, chronically behind, and also which provinces, I can assume, but which provinces are really, really, grave in this regard. And then I was gonna, I didn't want to assume, I want an official response. I didn't want to make an assumption, otherwise they'll send Mkwanazi my way. I'm not trying to do all of that. DM, I wanted to ask you a question, which I think I can now, because I had so many previously. But in terms of we're speaking here about young educators who are appointed having dropped, the number says it has dropped from 16,000 to about 14,000. There's been that regression. I don't know whether that is linked to Funza Lushaka, but also I want to get a sense, DM, around the department's ideas around the restoration of teaching colleges, just as a point of, what else can we do to produce better quality teachers, notwithstanding the fact that they do go to university, and not to phase out the university model, but is there an opportunity for South Africa to have some kind of a hybrid model between universities and actual teaching colleges that we've had? There are a couple of best practice examples around the world. I want to get a sense whether that's something that is on your minds as you plan to rejig the system. I'm really just trying to go through as fast as I can. On the internal audit, you mentioned that some people resign. I like that, because I think you must just continue. They resigned before, but if they've done damage and they resign, do we leave them alone or do we pursue them still? I wanted to get a sense on that. Another one that is linked to other institutions within the state that I, also oversee. We found out that there aren't any lifestyle audits done on senior officials, and also vetting, and as well as service providers. And I saw that there was some kind of vetting, but this was mostly related to the examination cohort of people. I want to get a sense from the internal audit if this is a thing that you do, and whether it's ongoing, particularly where things like service providers are concerned. And then I had a question around, what the irregular expenditure reporting was, but I got the answer in the presentation that it's been over about 3 years. And then on the system readiness, there's you reported that examination centers that have a history of irregularity will not be allowed to administer exams. The sense I want to get is, is there a list, of those, and where are they most prevalent, in which province? And then, Minister, and maybe, I don't know who can answer this, maybe DG can answer this. I don't know about GPW, guys, and their efficiencies and their issues. I want to get a sense. Are you very comfortable with this particular entity, and is their interface with CETA to your optimal standard that you require? Because I ask this because oftentimes the leakages happen between transportation, between centers, and I want to get a sense whether your ability to monitor that is like airtight. And I know you'll do your best, but I want to get a sense of that. And also, who are the delinquent provinces? I mean, I don't want to say them myself. I want to get an official answer. And then
delinquent in terms of
in exam leakages.
Oh, that's difficult to say.
No. In the past, there is a particular province. I want to know whether it's persisting in that particular province and if it's still the same one. And then on the tolerance range, what's the deviation on the tolerance range? And then also, how prevalent is its application across provinces? I want to get a sense of that. And then I think, Chair, I'll listen online, but I think those are. Okay, I think that's it. I had a question around increased performance from 90 to 94%. That's between 2024 and 2025. Qualitatively, what does that mean?
Indicators of performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. As you would have noticed, we are losing members, and I'm worried.
Sorry.
Because Honorable Chaba had to be rushed out because she did indicate she was not well. Honorable Mkhize also has a flight like yourself and Honorable Low, and but he's still here. He just said he has to go out, and if we lose more members, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
So, I know Lerato has a list of questions. I've got very few questions. I wanted to ask this question so that we then wrap up. When you respond, we all wrap up because of that issue.
Okay, so
they were actually complaining that how to call a meeting on a Friday, but it's them who insisted. You know, members or something else. They insisted. They want us here today, and I have no problem. I'm chilled, but they are not chilled. It's something else. We are very chilled. We are very chilled. You know, we are seated here. Chilled. No issues. No rush. We can leave at 10. We can leave at 10. We have no issues. I'm very chilled. So anyhow, next time it's actually indication that next time I should not listen to members. I should take decisions. Yeah, exactly. I think I should do that.
Okay, I'm gonna chill.
So my question is, well, I want to also appreciate, and of course, Minister, we understand that this is a very complicated system that you're running, and it involves a lot of learners, it involves a lot of logistics, and over time the system has been improving, and we're seeing how effortless it is now. And in your state of readiness, I was saying that when I started last year, we had unforeseen circumstances of weather issues. If you are not foreseeing such incidences as well, in terms of your discussions, have you filtered that in? Because we had to deal with that in Eastern Cape last year. So maybe that discussion, because it is that time, it is that season. But I think the state of readiness overall is actually good. It is showing that we are enhancing our efforts, and we are now getting to a point where we really are acing the process. So we no longer have to be all over when we're supposed to administer NSC exams. We are chilled because the system now is advanced. It has matured. It runs itself. So we are ready whenever it starts. And I think that is good to see. Except for, I think this is a discussion we had that we really want you to shift focus as DPE, not shift totally, but we've said that this culture of us, on the last year, we put all pressure on the learner. So the learner doesn't have a weekend, the learner doesn't have holidays, because now we're saying we really need to rework that, because our view is that the learner must be ready by the first day of grade 12. They must be so ready. So we must have done all that pushing in the 11 years of schooling. And we don't do it. We don't have to do it in grade 12. And we want to hear from you next time when we discuss how do we deal with that. Because when we go to all schools, they tell us about the state, they'll tell us the last push. So I feel for those learners. Boot camps, whatever camp, there's different types of camps everywhere. And I feel for those learners that it is very intense. And that sometimes learners can't cope. And that is too much pressure. And I think we should relook at how we prepare our learners, because they should be ready when they reach grade 12. The progressed learners issue, and we were asking when we were in the Free State, what does it mean? Because we wanted to understand it more. And now it was flagged in the AG's report that because of progressed learners, there is now a stampede at grade 10, something like that. And then the CO says also there are learners that are refused to write exams. They still those prevalences because the principals feel, well, it is going to deal with my target. If they don't pass, I can see this one, Joyce, is likely not to pass because the first time she failed, the second time she failed, let her not write because it will deal with my target. So how do you deal with that? And also the issue of the progressed learners. You are saying there's improvement in the number of progressed learners. What are the mitigations that have been put in place to improve, and how do we improve it even further? And what does it mean, this improvement? I was encouraged when, I think it is DG who spoke about how the minister wrote to the Minister of Higher Education. I was very excited when I heard that, because that's something that we really advocate for. We've been saying that there must be a smooth transition from Department of Basic Education to Department of Higher Education and to the labor market. There should be that understanding in DSD, what we call investing in people. What do we mean at a basic education level? And what does it mean, the transition? What does it mean to transition to DHET? And that conversation, Minister, should go beyond the two areas, the two focus areas that were told you've mentioned in your letter, which we welcome. But it should also go to what I think CEO was mentioning, that there is many of our learners who will not be going to any higher institution of learning. And then it speaks to registration, it speaks to application to NSS, it speaks to capacity of DHET to take the numbers that we are passing. So we want to know, how can you collaborate with DHET? Because by March, my understanding is that by March, Minister, you know the number of matriculants that you've registered. By March, you have them. You have that data. And you know which areas, which subjects they are taking, which streams they are doing, so you know. And that is data that DHET can use to prepare for the year ahead. So if we know by March that we've got 950,000 matriculants, and this number is in the science stream, this number is in the commerce stream, we must know then as DHET what to expect. What is it that we will likely get as a number of learners that will be seeking to go to universities, TVETs, and any other community colleges, And that is data that we believe DHET must use as well to prepare themselves, so that we don't have learners that who are told we don't know where to put them the following year. So we want you to also work together in that respect, but also work together on the quality of, because the DHET says the quality of your bachelor admission passes. They're saying no, in terms of our criteria, our admission criteria in universities, it's not necessarily at our level. They will say no, they do get many bachelor passes, but in terms of our criteria for certain courses, it's not at our level. Also work together on that, so that we don't have learners that are frustrated in the beginning of the year. So this is a very important, I think it will be a very important collaboration between the two. The issue of the STEM subjects, and it is still an underperformance. It is flagged. And there was a time where Limpopo, I remember Limpopo province had not spent their grant, this specific grant. We want to know if there are other provinces that have not spent this specific grant. We are saying that we must increase the admission or the participation of our learners in the STEM subjects. And we must increase the quality of their performance. So we can't have an underperformance in that area. I think that's something that we must speak to each other about. We can't have an underperformance in that area at all. The last one for me, Minister, I think the issue raised by Honorable Law. You, in your response, Minister, because it's an allegation that is made, and it's a serious allegation, I think maybe your response, we want a comprehensive response in this regard. you are saying there is those 2 vacancies. You've started the process, but you're saying there's not been any shortlisting. So are you saying that you've not shortlisted any candidates for the 2 positions? If you are saying you've not shortlisted, because you're saying you don't know any of the candidates, but you are saying the panel have you, so maybe tell us where you are, not to tell us who you've appointed, because I do know that will deal with the process. Have you shortlisted candidates? Have you constituted a panel? Has there been interviews? Has there been competency tests, if there were competency tests, and where is the process now? I think that is an information that will and maybe that assurance that, because you've said to us you don't know any of the candidates that have applied. That will give us some form of assurance, Minister, because it is serious allegations that Honorable Law is making. I'll leave it there so that you, and the issues of concessions, because we also learned what concessions means. We didn't understand. We learned when we were in Free State that, and I heard here that maybe just confirm if they mean what we were told they mean, that it is when learners apply for additional time, additional extra minutes, if that's what it means. And if that is what it means, maybe give us the stats. How many learners have applied for concessions and how many have received approval for the concessions? I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me quickly. So DGU and DM, you'll see where I don't fill in. Let me just start with the issue of GPW, Honorable Ngobeni. Comfort levels. Look, we are currently in the process of engaging with GPW because my concern, you will recall, I think members of this committee will recall, because it did come up in a committee last year. During the time when we were printing, there was a printing of exam scripts, where one of the provinces, it was said, I think Dr. Paul, it was about 3 billion rand, or 300 million, but it was an obscene amount of money that they had spent on printing costs. Now, currently how this works is that some provinces, Limpopo uses GPW to print the exam scripts. Some provinces do so at a provincial level. And I'm not always convinced that that approach is actually, one, efficient, and 2, financially prudent. I think that there are provinces and there are printers in provinces that are escalating costs. And considering the fact that we are in a tight financial constraints, why is it that we are not using a state entity that exists? However, that's my view, and I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about streamlining printing to GPW if we could do it at half the cost. But when I said this to the department when I first arrived, they said, look, well, hold on, because we first have to make sure that the process is secure. Secondly, we have to make sure that GPW has the capacity, and then we also need to do it in a phased-in approach where we can give them a trial and let's see how they do. So the DG is aware of it, and it's something that he's working on, because I'm not happy with the costs that provinces are spending on printing. And if we can do it at half the cost, but with the security measures that the department requires, then we can move in that direction. So that was the caution I received from the team, that you can't just simply switch over. We have to see if you can maybe gradually move towards them, if they also meet certain aspects of our requirements when it comes to printing. So that's currently where we are. Chair, a number of things you've asked. Number one, have we factored in unforeseen circumstances with regards to exam planning? Absolutely, we have. In some instances, we've already identified alternative venues for in the event. You remember the inclement weather or community unrest. So in provinces, there are alternative venues that are scattered around, so that in the event that something does happen, we can redirect learners so that they don't miss that day of an exam. We've also have other mitigation measures such as backup generator power. In fact, there was some load reduction that happened in Gauteng, I think on day 1 or 2, They were able to, there was a slight delay, but they were able to write because they had backup generation power. So there are those mitigations because, as you say, this is not the first time you're running an exam. So you do know that certain things do come up, whether it's community unrest, whether it's weather, or whether a school goes up in flames, whatever the case may be. We have those measures in place. Then the other thing around, I think, then the other issue I think it's linked to Honorable Ngobeni's issue around security. There's a very, very detailed process that the department follows in terms of making sure that exam, where storage is done, they're extremely secure. All the trucks that carry scripts are GPS tracked. We know exactly where they stop, when they stop, why they stop. There's other mitigation things that we've done. Things like, for instance, if you've got a learner or a child that's writing matric, you are not allowed to be handling live exam papers. So there's lots we've tried to mitigate over time. And I can say this really without fear of contradiction. I have the team that runs, the team that is under Dr. Mtembu, under curriculum. This team, they run a seamless operation. And even when there are crises, I think the response time with provinces is really, really good. You are right that I think over the years, the team at DBE has started to perfect how to run exams, and it's a fascinating thing for me to watch, but also a great sense of pride to see how efficient government processes can be. Then, in terms of pressure of the last year, I could not agree with you more. And that's why we are saying we have to strengthen the foundations of learning. Because even things like what you mentioned around STEM subjects and the uptake, I am still really not convinced that a 62-64% uptake in participation is good enough in maths and science. And yes, there's been a remark, we're on the upward trend in terms of their participation of learners. So from last year to this year, we've seen about just 2,000 more learners who are participating in math and science, but we can and should do more. And the only way we are going to do this is if we strengthen the foundations of learning, in the sense that children can only be confident to do math and science if their foundations were solid. The reason why learners are dropping off in grade 10, 11, and 12 doing maths is because they fear they're going to fail. But if, for instance, we are saying strengthen the system throughout, so that whether you're in grade 6, grade 7, and then it also mitigates this thing of having to say, basically children must sleep at school, cramming. It's not necessary. We can do better in the system by saying, how do we make sure that your grade 8 year already is preparing you for that last year? So I agree with you, and it's something that we are actively engaged with. The issues of schools not allowing learners to write, this is a persistent problem, something we've raised at CEM as well. And we've said to provinces it's important that they get to the bottom of where this happens, because this should not be allowed to happen. Teachers and principals can't be chasing targets at the expense of children. It's absolutely unacceptable, and we were very clear at CEM a couple of months ago that when this is happening and when investigation is done and this is found to be happening, action must be taken against those people. The smooth transition between DBE and DHET, I agree with you 110%, and that's why I think Minister Manamela and I are trying to make sure that there's greater synergy between these two teams. So there's about 5 or 6 areas that we are looking at, including how do we share the 3-stream model, how they utilize our community colleges, how do they revamp TVET colleges as well. Because part of the other problem is that we have 900,000 candidates that are writing matric. They can only take 200,000. Already there's 700,000 people who may leave the system who may not have space. But if we upgrade community colleges, we upgrade TVET colleges to a point where they are a desirable place to go, not a place where if I didn't get into a university, this is now a backup. It needs to be a place exactly how Germany has put a lot of stock on skills. It should be a place where people say, I don't want a BA degree, I want to go learn a skill. So, and I think it's work that we must be engaged with together. It's not just a DHET thing, it's a DBE and a DHET thing that we should do together. So I think him and I are aligned on that. The admission on criteria being low, I suspect the problem here, Chair, is not that the admission criteria on our side or the level of a bachelor pass on our side is low. I suspect the problem is that, of course, because if there's 200,000 places and there's 900,000 people applying, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take the cream of the crop. And then what it does is that it elevates the standard. So if I've left school with an aggregate of 60%, and I want to get into medicine, there's no way you're going to get into medicine. Somebody was telling me a scary statistic at the G20 that literally universities are taking medicine students who are passing only in the 80s. And the reason they can't do anything else because there's just simply no space. So it completely hikes up and it's so I think it's just so demoralizing for children who worked hard, who have passed. But obviously not everybody can be an A student. I certainly wasn't. So, so that is the problem. I think there's a greater problem around. That's why I think PA and DBE should work a lot more together on this problem.
Okay, we know. And we will try to verify if you were.
Sorry, what?
It will come out, I'm telling you.
Is she doubting my statistics?
No, I was an A.
Oh, okay. No. I certainly was not an A student. I know I was a B student. And Umalus is right here, so we'll check. The underspending on the MST grant, I agree with you, Chair. I think I've dealt with the STEM subject on what we're doing there to try and do the uptake. Then with regards to your second last question, the appointment process of the two DDGs, where are we with this? We have put together interview panels. We've done the interviews. We've done the shortlisting. The process now will need to go through to DPSA, which it's gone to DPSA. Once it's gone to DPSA, it becomes a submission that I must sign off, that I must take to Cabinet. So where is the process? It is between DBE and DPSA at the moment. So the reason why I could confidently say, besides the people who work at DBE, none of the people who were shortlisted are known to me is because I've met them through the interview process. Yeah. Then with regards to concessions, I may need for corrections here. Yes, concessions are that there are some learners, for instance, who require more time because maybe they write very slow. There's a medical reason for that. For instance, concessions are also given for learners who need the big writing font, for who are visually impaired, people who are using Braille. So there are those kind of concessions that are made. They write the normal exam, but they just need a little bit more time. I don't know if Kondwendi Posle send Pelon as is long.
Because, but summarize it, the ACD was answered during the presentation, Minister, that it has been discontinued. What will replace it? The budget has been taken to provinces, all the budget conditional grants for infrastructure. So now what is left is only those, same as the pit latrines, as Minister correctly put it, that this thing started in 2018, and the number that we're working with is the number that was established in 2018. And the thing is, as we have identified the 3,800 at the time, there may be other schools that are dilapidating in the process, like DG was indicating about the condition assessment of all our schools, because they dilapidate as time goes on. Then on the DG spoke about the tallies. The tallies will tell us about the number of teachers and the young teachers in the system. How many do we have when we come to present that? I want to just to cut it short. But yes, we can speak of restoration of colleges. But currently, we don't have I can't say a need. We don't have a shortage, except these new skills that are coming in the process. That's why when coming to the Funza Lushaka teachers, not all of them are absorbed. especially those who change the subjects as they go to the universities and all these things. But not all of them have been absorbed by the system, but the number is low as compared to the previous years. So we may say we need teacher colleges, but on the continuous teacher development, we might need colleges for that, but we work with so many partners in this, on the continuous teacher development, your unions and many other partners, and universities, of course, on that part. So the progress learners, Chairperson, there is a policy of progress learners that learners should not repeat a grade in a phase. A phase is divided into 4 phases in the education system. So we see this mostly at grade 12 or exit grades, grade 3, 6, 9, and 12. That's where it is mostly visible. But then there was another policy that was established some years back of the multiple examination opportunity, which was discontinued because it looked like it was a flood. They were no longer following the policy of the progression because it came with the issues what must be followed. So schools will just allow a flood of learners to be trapped at grade 12 because of the multiple examination opportunity. Then, after that policy was discontinued, some schools, after learners have been progressed, they dissuade them from writing all subjects, still following the policy that is now non-existent. They say, no, we're not going to write 3 subjects, and they register them as part-time learners, yet they are full-time learners. That's what Minister says. We are talking to MECs to follow that and check, because if a learner has been progressed to grade 12, must be given an opportunity to write all the subjects, because he's a grade 12 learner. Yeah, it cannot be taken as a part-time learner. So that's what we are following. Then on the issue of, Minister covered that one. I don't know, we're not fighting with our education, we're one education system. But let's be realistic and look at the numbers of learners, because mostly they might come to a portfolio committee and complain that we're not producing maths and science. Yet we have learners who passed maths and science at level 7. They are lingering around with their certificates because of the capacity of universities in our country and TVET colleges. By right, TVET colleges are not supposed to be taking grade 12 learners, but now they end up taking grade 12 because of the number of learners that are passing grade 12. So that's why we have the GEC, the General Education Certificate, that after obtaining that certificate, you must go to TVET. And now the TVET are not doing its purpose. They are taking grade 12s, and it becomes a repetition and consuming the time of our learners, because they do 6 years of something that is supposed to have been doing with 3 or 4 years, because they take the grade 12 learners. But I'm not saying they are wrong. It's not their problem, it's the problem of the country. When we speak skills revolution, we must all the government, not basic education and higher education, we must focus to say, let's increase the number of community colleges, let's increase the number of TVET colleges, so that these learners, when we encourage them to pass matric, they must have a purpose, and we must move the skills. But when we attain the democracy, we all move to say they must go to universities to be engineers, and now we lack the technical, the artisans, because we did not go that route. And not only in technical, even in nursing, because the introduction of nursing being done at university. So all of them, when they come back, they come as professional nurses. So there's no one that is doing those procedures at a level, same as teachers. But with teachers, I think as things stand now, we have sufficient teachers in the system. And if we can present that TALIS report, you'll see that most of our teachers are young, and even principals. we have young principals in the system. So some people would say our teachers are old, they are my age, yet it's no longer the case. We are moving because it was one of our APP targets that we want to move, a 5-year strategic planning, that we want to have more teachers who are 35 years and below in the system. Teaching can act. Thank you.
Very few, Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Indicators of performance, Honorable Ngobeni, 90 versus 94. The quality is targets that we have set, which are audited and checked by the Auditor General. So in other words, all the things that we are going to do, for instance, an example was given, 4 meetings in a year that the minister is supposed to have. To determine the quality of that, then you have to go into what is being discussed there, whether there's any impact in the system and so on. But as we set the targets, they are checked and agreed upon, and the AG audits, and if the AG is happy, then that's what it means. That's how you come to a situation of saying, I've improved from 90 to 94. From what we have set to achieve, what is in the APP, which came to the Honorable Committee, and Honorable Committee gave it a stamp of approval and say, go for it for this financial year. Those are the things that we look at, just those targets. The issue of quantity versus quality, we don't really look at it. It's just targets that are set. And then the tolerance range, I want the experts to get there, otherwise I'll be viewed as wonke. And I don't intend to venture into that, which is what they use for marking. Dr. Polia will do that. Umalusi, if they want to weigh in, they can also weigh in on that. GPW, Minister did a sterling job about that one. And I want to urge that we take the approach of China. Even entities of government are viewed as companies. They are treated more or less the same. I don't go to you necessarily because you are an entity of government. I go to you because you'll be able to deliver what I want delivered. And Minister is right, if we are able to cut the cost of printing. At the moment, the cost of printing is just too high. And the issue of capacity, of course. I think internal audit will deal with, how do we deal with lifestyle audit in the department and the public service? MD knows that. And then Mr. Kuno, there's an ethics officer, and over and above that, targeted line functions are subjected to lifestyle audit, particularly supply chain guys. So, and it's a target that is determined together with the DPSA and National Treasury. People who resign, I'm sure they've answered it. They said, if you resign and we're still busy with it, we lock it on the PERSA. If we still want to pursue criminal charges against you, we open a case. And we have done so with a couple of them in the department who decided to resign. And the DM has eloquently answered the issue of teacher training colleges. But my own input is that maybe we've gone past that stage. We should have combined HEIs and teacher training colleges like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, the economy might not be doing well, but they have one of the best education systems in the world. They were able to merge their teacher training colleges and their universities. And if you do that, the teacher training colleges brings in the fact that they've got knowledge and expertise around pedagogy. Universities are strong in knowledge creation. And then when you bring the two together, then your education system, in my next life, that's what I would advocate, merging the two. Okay, all right. So younger teachers, the line function says we are fairly stable. The output is around 6,000 every year.
40,000.
Is it 14,000?
40,000.
Yeah, 14,000 around there. People who are around the age of 30 years and younger. So he's saying we are fairly stable, but as I responded earlier on, the reduction in the input might have been caused by the fact that we've reduced, as DM has explained. There are other areas that are not demanding as much as they used to. So we've reduced there. Eradication of pit latrines, I think now our focus will have to be with PEDs. DM and Minister explained, ASIDI and SAFE program money is now with education infrastructure grant. In provinces, we've got to force provinces to make sure that whatever is left is eradicated. The same applies to, she answered the issue of what replaces ASIDI. ECD, Ms. Geyer will come to it later on. In terms of state of readiness, we are also meeting every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, as a team of DBE to look at the weather, which would have shared with provinces the day before, to look at the system, and then we bring in provinces whenever there's a need to do so. That's how we manage the administration of the exams. Honorable Sharif would be interested to know, we had a case, was it yesterday, of one learner who could not write because of gang violence in Westbury in the Johannesburg area. And this learner went to the nearby school, as we encourage all of them to do. But the principal refused to get the learner right. On initial take, I thought this principal was cruel. The decision was based on the fact that the gangs could come to that school where the learner is writing and then disrupt the entire school and put the lives of all other learners in jeopardy. But what we have asked Gauteng to do is to get a safe place for that learner and many other learners so that they are secured and up our communication in the whole country, because gang violence is not only in Gauteng, even here in Cape Town, you've got it. Learners must be found secure places for them to go and write. The issue of progress learners, I think, has been addressed. As the system begins to mature, your weaker learners become weaker, and our enrichment programs are also beginning to pay a lot of dividends. The focus on grade 12, it's a great pity we don't have time. We no longer focus on grade 12, it's grade R to grade 12. Even when we meet with provinces, they give us an account from grade R to grade 12 throughout the year. STEM subjects, I think it's responded to, but for STEM-related careers, they require 60% and above. Whilst we increase the number, but we also need to increase the performance of these learners to be 60% and above. And that's where we need to focus on as well. Just the last one, Chair. The policy is called accommodation and concession. For instance, what the Minister also explained about large print, about a scriber, it's accommodation, part of accommodation. Concession is where you allow even learners to take 5 instead of 7 subjects. Learners who are foreign nationals, you allow them to take what is not classically your home languages that learners would take here. That's part of your concession. But maybe if you could ask Ms. Geyer quickly, ECD, and then Dr. Polia and Umalusi. Yes, it's from Honorable Goveni as to how the subsidy is going to be appropriated.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
it. Yes, yes. Thank you very much, DG. So the answer to the ECD question is that the money will be spent on the poorest of the poor, essentially. What we have inherited from DSD are a number of ECD centers that were not registered. So the first was to actually put all of that information into a database so that we know all of the centers and know what the status of the center is. That's why we have gone on that Bana Pele registration drive, and we've processed all of the applications that have come from DSD. So we know who these centers are now, and they are coded according to whether they are bronze, silver or gold. So So the target is to get the bronze registered centers up to silver and to help them to have all the information to be able to then be regraded to silver, because that's when we start to pay the subsidy. For those who are silver that we inherited from DSD, we're starting to pay the subsidy to the learners. For those who still have to get to that point, we have got various donors that are now helping those centers to get them, to the point where they have got the health and safety, occupational health and safety certificate. They can get a title deeds, or we can work a plan of what it is in terms of the requirements to help them on subsidies. And then there are more and more learners that are now, through the Bana Pele registration drive, gaining access. So those centers that have status that get subsidies, the numbers are increasing in terms of access, and so therefore that subsidy is also extended to those learners. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, DG. Honorable Chair, and all protocol observed in the interest of time. I think firstly, the big concern amongst all of us is about exam leakages. But let me just assure honorable members that the last leakage we had was in 2021. So there's been no leakage of question papers in the last 3 years, which is confirmation that the system is maturing and we're dealing with the nitty-gritty and we have a better hold of security and improving the security. Now, over the last few years, we've had exam irregularities, but it had to do more with issues of group copying, which takes place within the context of the classroom, where unfortunately your invigilator allows learners to share answers. Now, those are some of the issues that we are dealing with, and I think you're correct, Honorable Chair, we're strengthening our monitoring. And in the presentation, we indicated that we have a 70% threshold, but what is also important is that our monitoring is done at different levels, starting from your provincial monitors, district monitors, as well as circuit level monitors, and then DBE monitors as well as Umalusi. And what is very interesting is that we have monitoring of the monitor, because you could have a monitoring plan, but monitors do not pitch up and do what they're supposed to do. So there's also that level of monitoring to make sure that there's strict compliance with our regulations. Now, in terms of tolerance range, which DG understands very well, but he wants me to explain it, I think what we're saying is that in the case of marking, there's always an element of some subjectivity. As much as we appoint the best markers in terms of qualification, in terms of experience. So what we do is we come up with a range. And a range is not thumbs up, it's scientifically determined. At the marking standardization meeting, which takes place in Pretoria, where we get chief markers, internal moderators together, we take the same script, and it's a live script, a learner script, we photocopy it, and we give it to this group of 20 internal moderators and chief markers. We then ask them to mark the same script using the same marking guideline. And you'll find that when they mark the first script, there is deviation. Then you give them a second script, you'll find that the deviation amongst the markers will decrease until you get to about the third or fourth. And that's when you get to a point where the tolerance is set. So there is a deviation, but you've reached a point where the deviation is minimum. And we then set that as a tolerance range. Now, what is interesting, Honorable Chair, we have a tolerance range per question, and we have a tolerance range for the entire global or overall mark. Now, at the marking center, you have a senior marker overseeing a group of 5 markers. And that is one of the responsibilities of your senior marker, is that every question that mark must comply with the tolerance range. And if more than one script in a batch does not comply with the tolerance range, then the entire batch is sent back and the marker is asked to remark. So that's how strict we are in terms of making sure that we set these high quality standards. And maybe just very quickly, I know we're all concerned about time, but risk. We are in very close contact with the prof jocks, NAC joints, and like DG says, we meet 6 o'clock every morning, and we are looking at what are the risks, what are the issues, and I think our NAC joints and prof jocks are extremely supportive. And maybe let me stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO.
Chairperson, I don't have much to say, just a few comments. Firstly, the system that the DBA runs is very big, it's huge. And the way they run it is like a well-oiled machine, where you run the system for the whole country with military precision, and they have to be commended for that. They have to be commended for that. But maybe just 2 points, other than the one that I've just made. With the quality of the bachelors, I see the department having done a lot in terms of improving the quality of the NSC. With a number of benchmarks that have been done, international benchmarks, to compare the NSC with equivalent qualifications in other jurisdictions. And to even give recommendations to the department to say, in a subject like geography or mathematics, this is where we need to improve. Now, where the universities will complain that the quality of the bachelors is not good enough, it is a question of saying the boat is leaking on your side whilst it is sinking. I would agree that it is very important that the universities talk to the department, and they also have to get into an exercise of saying, what kind of a product are we receiving from the department, such that these kids will succeed when they get to the university. The pointing of fingers, where it starts with the preschool, the primary school teachers saying the preschool teachers did not prepare the learners adequately. It cuts across up to the university, and it is not helpful. DG knows this as my pet topic, that while it is true that the department is doing accommodations and concessions, proportionally, the DB does not compare favorably with the IEB. And I only see the stats at the time when we approve the results, where the DBE will say, we have given so many concessions, and the IEB, being a smaller system, would say, we have given so many concessions.
Yeah.
The proportion is not favorable in terms of ratio. So it goes to the question of privilege. Concessions, yes. It gives more concessions. They are small, but proportionally in terms of ratio, they are giving more. And I'm saying it is a question of privilege, because in some instances, specialists have to be consulted for the concession application to fly. It is the question of ignorance by the parents, and so forth and so on, a lot of things. So that I would still appeal to Dr. Polia that at the beginning of next year, we compare notes again and see how many concessions were given by the IB and how many did the DB give. And we deal with that problem moving forward to say, how do we obviate this problem moving forward? It cannot be about poverty, it cannot be about the parents being ignorant when the learners are disadvantaged in the process. That is my input, Chair.
Oh, that is eye-opening, actually. Yeah, it's actually seriously eye-opening. You know, we're just concerned about DBE alone with this issue of concessions because we wanted to understand. And we were told that when it was explained, of course, it made sense. It made sense why you have such a provision. Maybe now that you are raising that element, it's another issue that we would have to look at. But safe to say, so now department, because we've spoken and today we praised you for many things today. But there is only one that the minister actually raised, that your target was 31 March, Minister, indeed, 2025. Why in October you are still saying 98, in fact, as a department. So, yeah, it's the problem. You said by 31 March you would have eradicated all pit latrines toilets as per your 2018. So we're not speaking about the new ones, we're speaking about as per your 2018 number. You said you would have completed this 31 March, you have not completed. That's one thing that we're not happy about. Extremely unhappy about it. We can't still be at 98% and it's October. You are way off now, your target. You know.
No, and as the committee should be, Chairperson, as they should be unhappy. I'm equally unhappy, if not more. When the President set the 31st of March deadline in his SONA, we were working flat out. The team knows we're working flat out to try and really meet that deadline, because this has been a deadline that has been missed over and over and over again over the years. And I certainly didn't want to be part of the people who missed that deadline. But we are inching closer and closer. As I said, as Mr. Mafuku will probably agree, what I've come to realize is that when things are not directly in your control, it becomes very, very difficult. So there are two things really. It is implementing agents, and it has been our donor-sponsored project, which we've had to redirect. So by that I mean there were donors, for instance, I won't mention names, there were donors who said, we'll build you 50 toilets, for instance. And then maybe things happen in their company and they no longer can do it. So in our then tally, we've now had to say, okay, province, you've got to take this and you've got to rectify it. Wherever the commitments were not made. So the point I'm trying to make is there's a myriad of reasons, but I take the point that the committee is not happy, and I share that unhappiness. And I'm now very much reluctant, once beaten, twice shy, though it was the President who made this deadline. But I'm now quite reluctant to give you a date, because I need Mr. Mafuku to come back to me saying there's 100% eradication, and then I can come and report to you that we've cleared that backlog. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. No. It's not. It can't be close. 98 is 98, 100 is 100. Two different numbers. No. DG today is spin doctoring, wants to spin doctor issues today. So with that said, DG, there is a school, Ngulu, I'm told it's Ngulu High School in Limpopo. I'll share the details where we are told, and this is a report I got, and I think the parents are watching because we're streaming live, so they are asking me here, are you asking about our issue? So I have to ask about their issue. That the school is demanding 100 rand, but they call it 100 rand for the report. So if the learner doesn't have the 100 rand, or if the parent doesn't give the 100 rand, the learner doesn't receive a report. Please do an investigation and deal with the issue, because that will be illegal. That will be unlawful. We know schools do fundraising programs, but you can't fundraise and you deny a learner, or you withhold a report of the learner because they can't meet your fundraising demands. I think please deal with it. It is a matter that was raised with us as part of our Minister and the DG and Umalusi and the team. Thank you very much for this comprehensive report. We will do follow-ups on key areas that we've picked up, and follow-ups in a form of more meetings on specific issues. I mean, I've picked up issues that I think we should have just a meeting to deal with. We'll do that when we have time. But the issue about the PEDs and meeting, that is a commitment we're making. We are going to call all the PEDs before the committee to discuss their APPs, to discuss their budget allocations. We're going to do that. That is a commitment we're making. And also to discuss the audit outcomes, the findings, and in details. So we'll have to make sure that it's not a Friday, but we'll definitely make time as a committee. The last one, I wanted to give the department, because we did when we started say that comment on the bullying issue, then we'll close. I do know that you were supposed to make some comment on it because it's important. The country is still shocked at the incidents of Milnerton High, and they would also want to hear your voice on it. We think the department should comment on it before we close today's meeting.
Thank you very much for the reminder, Chair. Absolutely. I think the incident at Milnerton High School has really taken the nation by truly shocked. I was made aware that this incident took place last week on Friday, and have been in touch with the MEC in the province to find out what the actual details are, and was then notified and given a report that the learners had been on precautionary suspension, and that obviously charges had been laid and they appeared in court yesterday. But I think, Chairperson, this highlights a far deeper issue, because I think when you opened also the meeting, when you spoke, you said there seems to be a mushrooming of bullying incidents. So I think it speaks to a broader issue. I'm still waiting for the Western Cape to give us an update on what they have done as a department with regards to that specific incident and the support that ought to be given to that learner. But we have a problem of bullying in our schools. And it's something that we as a department need to ask ourselves on how best do we, or at least on our side, how best do we deal with it from a policy point of view. One of the things that I've committed on doing publicly, Chairperson, is that I've committed to putting this matter of anti-bullying strategies and policies on the agenda of the Council of Education Ministers, because I think it's important that MECs are needing to make sure that these anti-bullying policies are actually being implemented. My concern is that we may have policies in place, but are these things being truly implemented? And then, of course, we will also run, we know that there's in the next week or so, I think it's in the next week or 10 days, we will also be running anti-bullying campaigns. But ultimately, Chair, I think that the issue around bullying, intimidation, and violence in our schools is not one that can be truly just solved by either punitive measures. It has to do something with, we have to ask our parents to step into the breach. We have to ask communities to step into the breach, because violence, the violence we see in our schools is a reflection of the society that our children come from. It's not something, schools are not independent entities of their communities. They exist in those communities, and so the things that we see in our schools are the things that are happening in our policies. But I want to be unequivocal about this. There can be no place for violence or intimidation in our schools. Schools and school management teams are well within their rights to discipline as per what the SGB is empowered to do on disciplining children. But also, that's why we've also signed an MOU with the South African Police Service, because some of these incidents, Chair, they are not just children being misconduct of children. Some of these things are criminal. Some children are bringing weapons into schools. Some people are endangering the lives of teachers in schools. And so that's why the MOU with the South African Police Service becomes extremely important. We've seen it bear some fruit in KwaZulu-Natal, where the SAPS did a raid at a school and they found drugs and weapons on learners. And so really it's going to have to be more than just DBE. We're going to roll out the anti-bullying campaigns. We're going to make sure that the policies that are there are being implemented. We're going to act harshly on children who are engaged in bullying. But at the same time, we need support. And so the support, I think, of the Portfolio Committee is appreciated. And the condemnation that the Portfolio Committee issued is appreciated, because it then says that there's an understanding that this is not something that government officials alone can achieve and government officials alone can beat. It's a societal thing that we must deal with. But we have to create schools that are places of safety and not violence. And what we saw at that school and what we're seeing in some schools as well is something that we cannot tolerate. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. Just to say, Minister, we must share with you our observations, as much as you'd have seen them on media, as we would have spoken about our observations. We must share with you, DG, that in June when we spoke here, we spoke about this issue, that it was on a rise, and that was in June already. And we spoke about comprehensive anti-bullying policies, and we were given assurance that schools will develop such. And we learned that it was not developed in many schools. And the district kind of could not understand exactly what do we mean when we say anti-bullying. Their understanding was that we mean the comprehensive code of conduct. And in the code of conduct is just one small paragraph that then speaks to bullying. And that for us is an issue. So when you engage with the departments, Minister, these are the reflections that we want you to reflect on. That we need to develop. We understand that and fully agree that, of course, these incidences are a reflection of the communities these learners come from, the families that they are raised in. But also when we come to school, you know, education is a game changer, we're told. Education is a game changer. So the schooling environment can actually assist those children who are from those communities and from those families to see the world in a different manner, to understand that we don't resolve conflicts through violence. And we can utilize education to do that. So our campaigns, and I was saying to someone when we grew up, I remember when HIV started, we had this campaign called ABC campaign. It was so, you know how DPE ran that campaign. We did poems, we did debates. By the time I was in grade 5, but I knew a lot about HIV at the time because of the campaign that DPE ran. It was very deliberate about that campaign. And we want you to run this anti-bullying campaign in that manner so that it's very deliberate. We speak about it everywhere, anywhere, so that our children understand that we can't resolve any conflict with violence, because it's really unbearable to watch. It's unbearable to see when we look at it. The second thing is, so some of the things, I mean, and we must raise these things with you, is that one of the things we learned when we were in the school is that seemingly there's that culture of violence in the school. And because there were numerous cases and they're coming out. And you get a sense that teachers were new, especially the rugby coach knew, and nothing was done. It's as if it's a culture that, you know, the older boys should now, this is how you strengthen the junior boys, and we can't raise such society. So then we said to the department, they must have a serious reflection on those on all these incidences that are coming, that are surfacing, and they must give us a report. And we want you to work with them to give us that report. And we said they must adopt a comprehensive plan, strategy on how they are going to deal with that culture of violence in that specific school, because it's in the specific school. But of course, it's other schools as well. Honorable Sharif was sharing with me the incidences in Gauteng. So we need to find a way to deal with it in real sense. The last one, MAC and DG and DM. In terms of your National Education Policy Act, in terms of attendance, I'm wondering why you've never invited us. Myself as a chair, why you've never invited the committee DG? Yes.
Oh. I was wondering, because we invited you to the G20 and you snubbed us.
Because you're also snubbing us, the CF. No, it was not. No. But I'm saying we would want to get invitation, because the policy does say that the chairperson can attend, may attend. So on issues like this, on serious issues, it says that. And we just decide, because we understood it's your space, we must wait for you to invite us. We don't want to impose ourselves. But we know the policy says we may attend. So we're raising it officially, because they are, especially with those issues, with such issues, we would want to get an understanding of what the PEDs are saying, what the MECs are saying about this matter, because it is really one matter that has really concerned us. And the G20, no, I was on my way. I definitely was on my way. I was on my way. I didn't snap you.
No, I was being facetious. I know there were flight issues. I was being facetious. I wanted to just quickly, on the issue you raised. Yes, we are developing that anti-bullying campaign, and you're absolutely right about how aggressive we need to be. But I am concerned that the province kind of did not know that we actually have what we call the implementation of anti-bullying protocols and the Abuse No More framework. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are frameworks that have been developed So it's strange to me that the province then would operate as though there's nothing in place. Of course, as I'm saying, these frameworks and protocols we must make sure that they're actually being implemented, and we must come to the party in terms of developing a national a campaign. But there are frameworks and policies in place from DBE at least that guide provinces on bullying issues.
I think, and that is where we're not getting it, Minister, is that the school, when they said they don't have, because when we got a sense that they don't have an anti-bullying policy, the protocol was presented then to us by the province. And our argument was that you must look at the protocol and you look at what we are raising. Because the protocol is more direct at child abuse cases, how learners that present abuse symptoms must be assisted in the schools. And it speaks to, I think it's harassment or sexual harassment, because we went through it. But it doesn't really speak about bullying in the schools amongst learners. The protocols, they're not comprehensive on bullying, because one of the things we were raising was that how do these learners report? Because the majority of the findings were that learners were afraid to report, because they report to teachers, and there is no protocol, there is no procedure that shows what happens when a learner says, one learner has slapped me, or one learner pushed me, because bullying is comprehensively defined in the Bella Act. It's comprehensively defined. But if you go to your protocols, it doesn't then include that comprehensive definition of bullying. It was actually meant to address issues of GBV at the time they were at a spike. And we appreciate it, but I think there is more that needs to be done that focuses on anti-bullying comprehensively, because that's what you are faced with now. It's learners now bullying each other, and it is becoming seriously unbearable. So that was presented to us by the province. But what we could not get a sense of was the comprehensive anti-bullying, specifically anti-bullying. You wanted to say something, yes?
Yeah, just to add, without getting into the details of it, because there is an investigation happening and there's also a criminal case that was opened. So, I for one don't really want to comment on it too much, and rather comment on the process once the findings are out. But I will agree with the chairperson is that we need sort of like a national campaign, because the thing, Minister, is if we allow provinces to do it on their own, it's not working. And that much I can say. I remember when I was in school, kids were bullying each other. I mean, we even stopped having inter-school days because they would just fight with each other all the time. And we need, and I was in matric a very long time ago, and so there is a need for a national plan or program or norms and standards that facilitate through the provinces, because leaving it up to the provinces now, and I can only speak for Gauteng because that's where I come from, it's not working there. And secondly, I think maybe it's something to also give to your advisory council, the newly established one, that can also look into it and see where are the gaps, where are the limitations, and how do we make sure it doesn't happen. Because I was telling the chair at the end of the day, we can't deal with specific cases. Bullying is happening everywhere. What we need to do is to make sure that we have the processes and the mechanisms in place so that if people do want to come and report, they can. Because another argument is, just like rape and GBV, people don't report. But people don't report because they don't have trust in the system. But if we can create trust in the system, then maybe we'll see more report. And at the end of the day, our job is to make sure the system works. And that is what we do at a national level. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I think that is our sentiments. Minister, that we need to be that aggressive on that campaign as we were aggressive at the time. And I was giving an example of something that I've seen myself. As young as I was, I could tell that it was very aggressive. So we need to be very aggressive on this anti-bullying. Exactly, because we were made to sing it. We were made to sing it. You wrote about it in the curriculum. You did extracurricular activities with it. Even when you played soccer, they will tell you are playing for ABC, and we had to memorize it at that time. And that's how aggressive it was. And I'm saying it had a serious impact. It had a serious impact because even ourselves who teach the community, who teach our own elders who did not understand HIV at the time, and we really dealt with the myth of it. And it was basic education that they did that. So I'm saying, yes, these children might be coming from these communities, these families, but we can do something. And that's what I want us to do. So thank you very much for taking up your Friday. And the meeting is adjourned. So we are the only ones who achieved.